cafe them day for up as a Lord Commander talk and do for Menchum for the wonderful work where they did do and all our commanders them Popol and General Sumanguru and the one that one nothing name them una all day for my heart and una day for our prayers. Today I will take una just a very fast issue then way to go on. I want raise fund specifically for help one of the IG general then where they battle at Republic to Cameroon for inside Navas, inside Mavas. Mavas now one of the biggest, I think for inside Manu, the most populated district for inside Manu. They go through a lot of pain from the attack of La Republic. Now for inside Acquire ID, for inside for Acquire, when I remember General Ngoy of Sokadef and a lot of Sokadef fighters, they didn't give their blood for win and liberate Acquire. Unfortunately, we see say some of those people the way they say that they be their leader them, they don't go for Switzerland, and today we see how Acquire they go through hell. La République du Cameroon they are unleash a massive campaign for destroy Acquire, burn villages and kill our people them. I will present some of the images them. Some two boys and they La République the military they shoot them. They be done saying we picture them. I be done ask General Omega me then send me video for those picking them. They don't send the video them, and also they get information say for Insanwa, for around some village they call and say room for Insanwa for the Mbororo vigilante group when Ngala Jerat be create and where they be go keep people from Garbu. We ran yesterday today they are already go inside action again. They work a beat and harass our picking them for the chief on Tombo. Where now become for TV for can begin cover up for the crime for the killing of your own people then. Is to be involved from information what they get them they that particular Mbororo the day from Tombo again, they don't go from Tombo, go for room for one area they work and harass people then. You know what make long way Cameroon government they become toxic they go they put the people the way they be key people from Garbu, me then go for trial. But we see Bashiru now the head for that, now the head for the Mbororo people the way they run, deceive them, made them join this deadly squad where Ngala Gerard either arm them right from Nkambe then they also for Boom and many other places, even for Womb they come sometime right for Sabga, they see waka harass our people them. So I don't want to highlight those issues them, maybe gonna sabi say nothing in that way to go on. But first, before we start, I want to take una for the Savannah state, in precisely for the great state of Bui, who would then get an incident where the forces them for the IG forces. Nah, sorry. Yeah, are they live already? Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. Pierre, please pick him up. I'm trying to get in the studio. That's fine. Okay. How many minutes have you been live?
I'll be live now. I just actually put on my introduction to my opening statement before I get to my presentation. So if you see, catch me up.
I'm thinking about at least 5-10 minutes to do that.
Okay, I'll get the music going on, and then hopefully you join. You just hook me up.
Okay.
So that was our technical team. They are trying to broadcast this particular streaming live on our national television, the Amazonian Communication Network. So please forgive me for that brief interruption. I'm just going to take the time to play a music so that we warm the seat for about 5 minutes, and then we get them connected, and we will be live on ACN at the same time. So let me get this music going on for us. Why is this thing like this? Okay, my computer is not collaborating. So if you are watching me on YouTube and you watch me doing all these things, know that we're struggling to catch up with the technical support team of our ACN channel. So Wako yona wana o.
If you want joy, just yourself. You be very good woman for your fashion.
One woman,
If you want joy, just yourself. You be very good woman for your fashion. One woman,
good woman, them now good woman, then get good fashion. So I welcome all now. I see Leonga Martin they online. I see Omalu they online as well. Bernard they online. Jeffrey they online. Julius Kofu they online. We'll get some video material that they and I hope say Biko Khan is online as well. So I'm welcome. Now around 3 a.m. for Hong Kong time. Okay. I don't know if the crew for the ACBC they don't already connect us live. Let me double check. I salute Mama Irene Ate. I salute you. Bishop Joseph, Happy Olivia, Charles Nji, all man welcome. I want to just double check if we don't be broadcasted yet live. Ladies and gentlemen, we are welcome once more. We will take some time for wait for our technical crew for the Ambazonian Communication Network for get us live on that platform so that we will be broadcast live on the Ambazonian Communication Network for Ground Zero and across Africa and across the globe. So once more, we are welcome today na the first day for December. I might try for adjust the date. Today na the first day for December 2020. This is the No Kunny Talk Zone, a platform for advocate for the independence for Ambazonia and a platform for uphold the truth and for do investigative reporting about the incidents and way they happen for Ground Zero so that me Ambazonia they know the facts from which way it happen from the social media noise. Now also a platform who the hold the leaders them to account for make sure say make the things where they promise them for the Ambazonia be attainable and would make sure say would do accountability. I believe in civil liberty and I believe in the public court. So I always make sure say when I get the right for access for information, we do all of our job for bring those things and for una truthfully and honestly. So now the platform now the mantle that would then carry am would for make sure say we deliver for the Ambazonian people them and for enable them for effectively prosecute this war for their independence when a very, very big thing. This is a very serious matter. This is not a social media experience. This is an issue about survival of 8 million people who are under occupation and to give the people on the ground a voice to be heard across the world because under occupation they cannot speak. I'm also the Deputy Defense Chief of Ambazonia Defense Forces, no longer the Savannah State, but the entire Ambazonia territory, and I'm functioning on that capacity right now as well on this platform. So you have the benefit of an activist as well as a command officer of the Ambazonia Defense Forces. So today we want start. I be expect say the SCBC the ACN go down start broadcast already live, but I think I no go wait. Then the fit still rebroadcast the whole show. But nevertheless, we get very serious things the way they go on for ground zero. Our people then they be attacked on all fronts, and our defense forces them they be the day on their mission. Then be focused on the roadmap for independence, and sometimes would it be diverted due to certain circumstances. Them. I want for make sure for remind una say if una never listen for the interview for the TTA soldier or interview for give una a window into what they go on for inside Gozang and for the great state of Momo in particular, and the things the way that they go all across our national territory from Bui to Meme to Fako across our national territory where people that then successfully infiltrate one of the major faction them for the Ambazonia revolution, the IG group. They take over the group after the leader of that group, Siseko Ayoktabe, be kidnapped from Yaoundé from Nigeria back into Cameroon, and they then try for institute policy them where you go make the Ambazonian revolution it fail from within, and it be with deadly consequences. Them we don't see a lot of strategy. We don't see the killing of our own people, inside attack, the killing of Comfort, the killing of the Bible translator in Batibo, the assassination of a lot of people them as a result of the work of infiltrators. So infiltration remain one of the greatest challenges we'll get them. We also see that they use infiltrators and for misrepresent our aspiration with the HD and for accept something less than what our people they bargain for and which way they fight to die for. Now our job for make sure say when people then sign up for give their life, for sacrifice their life for independence, make not only that independence be the thing where it be presented by leadership. If there is any concession or whatsoever which we do not believe in and which we will not support, it should be done in a transparent manner, not out of greed, out of personal gains and corruption. Ambazonia will never be sold again. I assure you that. Whatever outcome it will be as a result of the interests of the Ambazonian people first and their aspiration for an independent country. So, ladies and gentlemen, today I'll go and start for una, for take una for the great state of Bui. We'll get an incident where the forces them for the Bui warrior, where they work with Sako, where they be manipulated by Elvis, and we don't see how they give them instruction by Chris Anu and all those people the way they sponsor them for the Bui worldwide for carry out massive atrocity across Bui. We don't inform the Bui people them several times say this is a death trap that will only lead to more death of the people them for Bui. Today we don't see one of those instances then where this boy they don't go for the field, then cash, then block motor for take money for the driver, they execute the driver with one motor boy, the two of the run die, and then go for social media for go blame them on the ADF. Somehow them believe, say by pushing this falsehood, this lies, it is going to stick on the major force on the ground and tarnish the reputation of the entire struggle. These people they don't mean good for we. Their leadership they don't mean good for we. They work directly for La République du Cameroon on the cover of Ambazonia, and a lot of those soldiers them they not be aware. Repeatedly after repeatedly, we see atrocity after atrocity, lies after lies from this group, them for try to blame them on the entire revolution. I'll play the video for our general. We don't decide to be proactive for make sure say we tell the Ambazonia people them the truth about what way it happened. So I will bring a video for General Capora, the lion of Bui, make he can talk directly for the people them. With one of our soldiers, the way they be on the scene where they get an encounter with that particular unit for the Bui warriors where they carry out this attack. So we don't allow the general me then speak directly for una, make una understand exactly which way it happened for Bui. Make I bring the video for una right away.
want me tell me the whole incident we happened yesterday, and I want me talk how the thing be happen, because there is all man they talk and say people where they shoot that driver, na Capo is soldier them. So how will you be there for day where you be there for day before you come on you know the soldiers them and you know their barrack. So I want me tell we so that when you want talk now, me people for Banzo me the all year I know the talk the thing and say me na all soldier them me the year. I want when you want talk. Me I send it thing, me all bands of them made a year. People where they shoot that person and come where they come on. So if we talk.
I be there. My boss will send me say we go.
This is the driver that was killed.
Where the tag. We don't go sleep for road. Day break. One be like 7 o'clock. 8 we picking them. They become met up with for checkpoint for play where we sleep. They met up with for there. Then for year we lie there. Where we sleep now for there. Where we will wait we in attack. The one can control now. We boss go we say more begin turn back. If you don't talk say more no stand more for road. Say more begin the turn back. As we turn now back. We worry. Small time they call we say they don't shoot one driver for day. And we have for that people where they be there. I be testimony say I be see all them.
So basically, for person where you need the year fine, I go repeat them again. We're gonna hear the Ambazonia Defense Forces them, where then they under the command for General Capo for inside Great State of Bui. They be send their picking them for patrol. They picking them be there for patrol for defensive position for protect the area where they protect them. They run there for that patrol for the whole night, then sleep for the whole night. For morning time, they encounter a group of troops when the Bui warrior them, they meet up them for day. At that time, the general call his soldier and tell them, see me they come up for that particular area. Later on, when they come up for that area, then yes, say they ran kill some driver for day with a motor boy. And naive the soldier this they testify for the Ambazonia people them, me they know exactly where they happen because he be there on the ground, he be meet up the people them before that incident happened. The Bui warrior them as normal, you know, when they carry out this atrocity to them, they the one for add pain for the injury where they ran injury by lying saying that our soldier that they commit this atrocious act them for inside Bui. Me gonna hear me the soldier explain what will happen.
I know all them.
When I saw them,
When I saw them for Bumban, saw them for A2.
For Bumban under Commander A2.
Under Commander A2.
Okay.
They become metal with of field where we did there.
You know some the soldiers them Danny.
I know the dragon be there.
Yes.
Bukunji be there.
Yes.
Fiti be there.
Yes.
Then Wada, I don't know his name, they call it Wada. Then
so it give the specific names for the sort na Banso picking and this so all man for Banso on verify this incidents them. Now the specific name for the people then this way they be day for day when then go kill this driver and the motor boy for the Bui warriors them and then make them manipulator them and propagandist them for abroad begin try for blame and for our general way day for day. They even then make all type of lies. I don't know what is going on with these people in their mind. So now listen for the soldier me account, the people the way then go kill this driver for day.
different two, I don't know his name. We'll be there 2 weeks 6 for there.
They begin now, we can go on.
They will get 2 AK, one pump action. We left them for there before it happened.
So they think what they also I want to say me also them for we made a year and two made the people them for we bunch of people them made a year because all thing when they talk say Capo don't do this one so when she don't quiet I know they talk so man we talk say true they talk say the man don't do the thing so he never even talk say no be me don't do them when she don't quiet so they know say na me don't do them. See where problem become start for we where general big number be one come with the big people them they kill them. You don't ever see soldier for back and forward again. You know, we don't ever see them again. But they come out for road, they make control. Take people their money when something don't happen like the one where don't happen so. They turn now for back and head. Oh man, this thing not even say me they begin talking at all. People where they
so now General Capo that it talk, neither they explain what it happened. The same thing will not be here for the interview for the soldier and for the TTA. the tigers of the terminators of Ambazonia when a commando is them. They tell now how they enforce a system of collecting tax. Now the same thing way that happened for inside boy again today. This boy the don't go stop motor, whether they want take money now by force or not, we don't know which way it happen. But the result I said they don't kill the driver and for kill a motor boy. Now the driver this na bounce up picking this two na bodies that they are already buried the driver from which we hear. We'll send our the transitional authority we for ground, they will go for the barrier. Now the thing in this way it happen. So we want me gonna understand exactly the truth for which way it happen for ground zero. So generally explain generally which way it happen.
Come up for all by and tell where they come up for Kumu. They be there for market here. They will see all my picking them for here where they are come out that kind of worker. So if they want to talk about that one where they talk so, they don't say all will be there for here. No man no be shared for this place. So when they talk so they think they worry me. And two, you don't finish. Thing I want to talk for Buina say what it. All thing where they talk all time when they go cause something where they don't cause them for any place they talk say na General Capo. Now today where me I want make an army all man for here for Bui. Me they know. When they go for any place go kill for there, they talk say na General Capo don't kill. Una they make na bebe. All una think them where una they make them badly. All that things where they don't wanna cause them. All people they know. Now say they fear, now say me they not talk in the public. Me wanna go shoot another man. So
now the year the warrior them, the only reason why people them for ground zero they need to talk about the atrocity. Now because of the reprisals where they do them. They fear for their life. Those people they need to represent our people in any way. So now here me the general explain what really happen.
When we go make that kind of thing, we gonna agree say now we don't make them. Why we go make them so talk about defend my name? The audio where they make the video where they make and so on say what it is circulate for social media say people where they kill the man they been under General Capo where all my picking them be there for you. See where the problem come up with where man they will go and shoot person with them. My picking they know they come up for it again. Where I know why.
I don't know much any person. Yeah.
And even all people them for Bui, they know say come for Bakam, you never ever shoot any man. No matter how they go shoot for any place. Can't talk say General Capo don't do this one and she don't quiet so. And they talk this thing and not they talk directly except now for soldier them. Because the people where they call this thing they know. I want to make them now say me all people them for Bui made the year and made a nothing where they pass. It be good say when you talk thing where you be straight. Die for thing where you don't talk straight. Problem not there for that one. But you lie and lie, go die now your problem. When you lie and lie, go die now your problem. If any civilian day where you don't ever say back and be shoot any man where evident day, make the talk. How will they go shoot?
Now the year now our general is the challenge, just like General Ifang, the Supreme Commander of the ADF, he don't talk. If any person get evidence, say the Ambazonia Defense Forces, they don't carry out any atrocity, make gonna present them. We welcome the evidence. Unlike the other groups, there are thousands of evidence. These are evidence of their atrocities. There are evidence everywhere for these people. It's not like people are making unsubstantiated claim. It's not like we are trying to score points. These are evidence. General Capora is saying the same thing. If anybody where fee say would not commit atrocity, me the person bring them. Me them bring them for table.
But you lie and lie, go die now your problem. When you lie and lie, go die now your problem. If any civilian day where you don't ever say back and be shoot any man where evident day, make the talk. How will they go shoot for any side? Shoot for any side. Go talk to na General Capo. And the one where they make an answer me all man know. Na say what it. When they go shoot so, they can't talk to na General Capo. And they wake up and she don't make quiet. Go shoot for any side. Can't talk to na General Capo. And she don't make quiet. The one where they make I want to make people they know now because some people they don't talk say how will they talk say now you don't shoot make and so you now you don't make and so you she don't quiet so you show say now you don't make them. The one now I want to make all man know. Because that thing where they work and make and so. And I want to give some advice for the soldiers them where they say they be in an IG where they know one ADF. When I bought them the same one for back matter where when I know be so long. When man they wake up like IG, it talks say a man for ADF na black leg. General Capo, they work under military. That one na for spoil we. Na politics. Man, if you don't so check thing where if make a man spoil, they walk back and come. You know the same, it choose another one for top. So that one, where when I just we come talk say man, they work under military, now because when I one thing them way when I do am, me the height, me na my own they come out. And the who or no. No be say people never ban so no. They know all thing where when I do am. Now say they fear na say if they come over public talk, when I go shoot person. How when I on na say when man talk against when I go shoot and I shoot him. So when I think that way I talk and then post it, I will name.
So the general ran talk. That is what is happening. We hope say all man hear, all man get the message. That people in that way they kill anybody where speak out the truth. All man for Banso, he knows that the ADF they fight against La Republique, not only against La Republique, and all their lies them. The time for those lies have come to an end. All those manipulation where they don't spend years and years for build them, it don't come to an end. It need to serve the purpose of the revolution. It is serve only the purpose of one person, Mr. Paul Biya, and the illegal occupation of our territory. And anybody where they push that lie, make it be ready. We emphasize them again and again. Whether you did for diaspora, if you make this treasonous lie again about the Ambazonia Defense Forces and the people them, where they don't sacrifice their life, make we know say get consequences on the ground. If you do one lie or you want make any accusation, the minimum way they ask you now say get your evidence, substantiate them, because there is no perfect crime. If the ADF indeed is to work for La Republique, there will be evidence. Like we know that the Sarkos are working for La Republique and there are evidence. When I hear Bandam, when La Republique do Cameroon representative, it don't stand, it confess, say they give them money. When I hear their soldier them for ground day for inside Gozang, they talk La Republique, they give them money again and again and again. When I hear the meeting and the corruption between Chris Anu and Sarko and La Republique. When I see they put even for social media they put they prove them. Even their own group that indict them of such practices. We don't come out and make accusation like that for political points. It is not infighting, it is not insulting people, it is just telling people the truth based on the evidence and what the people are doing. The activities will definitely prove what we are saying true or false. So I do still want to inform Ambazonia people and say for inside by Tombu village, that village where they for Ngarbu, where they become Komida massacre, would hear now say life it go on now. The Bororo people then way Ngala Gerard Ibidan gather for Mr. Paul Biya, they work with the military, they don't enter for inside one area for they for some small village they call and say room, they continue for the beat people then for they. Would also hear say for inside Babanki some incident they happen where our mami them for they don't come up for complain. Also, La Republique du Cameroon troops they don't come for they hold them, they force them, say me they give the name for Amber Boys and wait they for that area. Would condemn those practices and would call our mami them be patriotic and make them protect their Pekin away they fight for defend Ambazonia. Would also call on the fund for Babanki, where it be done been a very good fund. It will be good fund to La Republique du Cameroon RSC. Make no amount of corruption, you know, making me turn against the own people then because it will get serious ramifications them when those boys they go decide for react. I go want to go now for inside Marvas. I plead with the Ambazonia people they wanna they listen for me right now at home and abroad. Now time for we for put together money for support this general. We no say na IG general, but we no care. We need for put Ambazonia first. They ran the fight for the past 1 week for defend Marvas. Marvas I think that the biggest, most populated district where they for inside Manu. They ran kill a lot of people them for day. The general way they for them na General Omega, na a very hard-working general. It fight for defending people them and for independence only. That area it be controlled some time, partially by Sokadev. The Sokadev they be done declare ceasefire. They work now with the HD for Swiss for go work what type of formula where they work and for them for with La Republique will no sabi. But which way it happen? I say La Republique they not get any ceasefire. They kill our Pekin them for they mercilessly. We be done show on a picture them for two of the young Pekin the way they see them for road then shoot them. The video footage is the rank come for we finally. I go and play and for una make una hear this atrocity where they go on And I beg una reach out directly for Lucas Asu. Una reach out directly for Mama Wali. If una get difficulties, una reach out for me directly. We need for supply bullets for that general right now. We get way for supply and for them right now, but we need money for do am. Now, urgent plea. Una know say I no be very comfortable when it come for raise money. No be something where I be very, very good at. But I dey take an exception for this case because it be urgent. It be urgent. Make I play the video them. I don't hear the story them for day. It done just broke my heart. It done broke my heart. I don't even talk about the incident for Victoria, how Dr. Chua Yaba the one put interest for day. We don't talk for the people them for day. They talk about some Bensikin people the way because La Republic their military want seize their Bensikin, then carry those boys and then go kill them, dump their die body for some place. One I don't even talk for some one military man when I'm Ambazonian, he don't call me the woman, the woman actually military woman, he don't call me the joke cry and I cry with the way they do and for inside Victoria, for keep Victoria me be the way we be. It be terrible. Our people then for Victoria they need for stand up. They need for stand up. First of all, we will go for the video for inside Mavas, for inside Akwaya, and we'll see which way it go on for day. And if anything, you never ever motivate una for donate for self-defense, make we protect our people them. I hope say this picking the way they kill them. This was picking them for inside Akwaya, it go motivate una for do the right thing. Make we give this boy them the equipment the way they need them for defend themselves against this terrorism from La Republique du Cameroon. Now the video this for the picking. While the video go on, I go also put along the side screen pictures them from the picking, the two other picking them, they wound them, we then shoot them for road. The picking go explain that for himself. It be self.
Yes, una fit see how the country dey. People they already claim say La Republic government military they secure the nation. Una fit see what dey happen for Southern Cameroon inside Akwaya,
The picking
Maniok
wound that so.
County. The picking wey dey see am so, this small picking so. I want ask una say una fit see how this small picking so people gun so fight. This small picking so be comot in Nigeria way with your brother, then they be dead them 6. They come out for carry cocoa go sell am for Nigeria. The small cocoa wey the pikin be carry am with a brother them, they can't start the shoot the pikin. They shoot kill two of your brother, and then they shoot it for hand. The other brother they shoot it for back, and then the other two wey they be there for back, they run come out. Why them two they sustain injury, and then 2 they kill them as a sport. When a small pikin the way they not fit stand for fight, and then the can't talk say now Cameroon military they secure the nation. This small picking, they wanna look like this. This small picking was if we stand fight to fight against a government. If La Republic soldier they find Ambazonian soldier to fight, this boy so if he stand in Ambazonian to fight, okay, they no get eye for find Ambazonian soldier and for side the way they can't pick na this small boy they now for kill him. So I go ask the boy what be happen with you before the shooting, he go talk and when I go here. So a boy, what be happen before they shoot you?
We be carrying a cocoa where they come, where there 6 of us, where they come, where we come join with the people where they shoot us, where they kill 2 of my brother, where they shoot us, where of us we come out.
Okay. So as the people they be see una so they just start for the shoot or they be stop when I say wanna stop.
They be see us so they be just start to the shoot. As I did they shoot, they not come out for good, they still there, they think say us we just come out and push them.
So the Cameroon military, a trained military, a professional military with all the hardware where if you ever get them, possibly get them. They meet these children, 6 of them, they kill 2 of them. Just open fire like that. Like they are animals. Like they are not human beings. No value. Look at the picking them. Look at this age. Even no matter what human being can open fire on children like this. And this then they go on for 4 years. For 4 years. Yet some people they want go get so-called regional elections without any empathy. Jesus Christ.
Okay. So una be come so yeah, the other brother where you two again wound so You get the one for which place?
for back.
For back here. And then you get your own one for hand. How you be take come out for the place?
As they be shoot me around, I go enter for bush. I stay down until I bleed until hungry catch me. I come pass where these people do not come help me.
Okay. Now after you come out for dinner, time will be there for bush. You come out, you can't come out now for road. Where you be bleed now, hungry can't catch you now. You can't come out for road before, and but now so now they can't help you. Now people they already be helping. Now which people them?
Jam.
I mean the people they already be helping now civilian where they help you own, and but now so you own like police so they be help you.
Bajuna soldier be see them I call them say they don't shoot me for hand.
Okay, now but now so you see them where you see them, you call them say they don't shoot you for one way they can't help you. They move, they come out with you now for the place.
Yes, they be there two of them.
Okay, the ambassadors, so they be there two of them.
Yes.
Okay.
They come corner you where they carry me.
Fellow Ambazonian, at the Bekuna for reach out for send support for General Omega. No be ADF soldier, but na Ambazonian soldier, na Ambazonian first. They need all the bullets them where they fit ever get them for defend themselves and for defend their village against this terrorism from La Republic to Cameroon. They ran they live peacefully under Ambazonia control for the past 4 years. We know the hardship where La Republic their president they bring them. We know the atrocity where the military for Cameroon they bring them across our territory. We know the terror. Our people have rejected this union. The least we can do is to protect these people. Any army where go meet up Pikins them like this, it be bad enough. Say they don't carry all the resources we got them make them for me be available for we for Ambazonia for take care of ourselves and live a good and honorable life. It not be enough. Say they don't take every resources we get them. Take them for develop their own country. They no fit develop them. Picking them for this age, whether for the struggle for learn for house, for work for house, for around house. Then be forced for carry cocoa, go sell them for Nigeria, for help their family. A military go meet up picking the way and carry cocoa for their head, open fire, killing two. Now small picking than this. Wait till we need them again. This is why we are fighting. This is why we cannot accept this state of relationship and occupation relationship with La Republic. Please, when I am donating money for this very IG group, the Omega never ever receive any money for them. As a matter of fact, the gun the way they get them, the bullet the way they get them, in the community that help them. At the back una, I take God back una. When I give we money, make we give this boy bullets and guns, make them be able to defend themselves against such acts of terrorism from the Cameroon government. I beg una. If una don't know how to support them, una reach out for me. Every single franc una send them the go for General Omega for the bullets them. We get bullets them on the ground. He will get the choice for buy the bullet by itself or for make order for your own bullets and your own gun them. Everything we will send them for them. We are the most credible people who have been doing this for a long time. And I assure you, even the money for the transfer cost, we will bear the transfer cost to make sure that every donation will arrive on the destination. I beg una, if una listen for me, una contact me directly, una contact Lucas Asu, una contact Mama Wali, and we will help una for half to donate me go directly for them. We need them urgently. Even if una want donate and a through TTOF, yes, una fit put our TTOF, we go still get them, but get the receipt and then send the receipt for me. If you donate for Mama Wali, you donate for Lucas Asu, you get the receipt, you send them for me, make a follow up, make that money reach for day, me then get the bullets today. This is why we are fighting. This is the evil we are fighting against. No generation from Ambazonia no deserve to go through the same thing we go through. We must make sure we get our freedom completely, freedom from terror, freedom from persecution, from any occupation of foreign power. Fellow Ambazonians, I go want Teguna again for the great state of Momo, once more for the amber to amber fighting way down they go on for day. When I be done, at least see the video where the Momo Marines they make them for talk say one of the forces the way they be there for day, they ran decide for join the Ambazonia Defense Forces. When they be decide for join we, the forces them for day, the TTOF then decide for attack this boy them, then kidnap some of them, go keep them for their camp. We'll be very happy for tell owner as we be that announce them for Facebook post. Say those boys them they run come out for their prison and then be free. These are video footage is the way they come from our soldier them for ground zero, where the boy they then finally meet up their brother them for the Ambazonia Defense Forces. This boy they ran live for the past 4 years, they be deceived, say the ADF na the work with the Republic. Now the same forces then today they run for can join we again. And we'll be very happy for receive them with open hand. We will arm them, protect them, give them weapons for fight against one enemy alone, and that enemy is La Republic to Cameroon.
Yes, Pa, if you can see, that is engine. Engine is now on base. When I point engine, me pass see, that's engine, that's engine. That's engine, and this is Akabacha 1. Mami Coco. Where then they? SKI! SKI! Are you sure for commander no? Clear, Pa, this is our boys. This is engine. This is engine. This is engine. This engine. This engine. Engine is now on base, sir. This is the one that I said that they burned the parents' house, sir. This is a man.
So this is the guy. Them burn this one in the house, the video, the pictures, and I think I know get time for get the pictures. The TTO, the commando picking them. Then go burn houses them for people them where they believe in an ADF forces them for Gozan. Now their own country people them. Then go burn the houses. Now La Republic of Cameroon their character in that. We condemn that atrocious act with the highest possible word. And we call on all the soldiers the way they did for day. Me they understand say we not work for the devil. We not work for the devil. And then they mix my word. Those people the way they don't talk me they don't get arrangement with commando, me them begin collect money, then they use sooner. They need to fight for against La Republic. When I see the Okonda Titus, when I see them for inside Nigeria, Okonda Titus, they work now the picture this with Kunda Titus, not in that. When I see they receive money for La Republic. Now they burn houses. Some of us would then decide for offer ourselves for save our nation on the front line. We know how hard it be. Some of us would abandon our family. We need to talk with our siblings. We need to communicate with our families and because of Ambazonia liberation. We know how hard it be. Let alone a soldier for ground where they don't decide for enter bush. For go burn the family house. We not almost be worse than La Republic. Because La Republic know all we will do for the Ambazonia struggle. They know our houses them. They never go burn them. But when they go burn a fellow soldier a house, where family they never do anything, the family they don't be stranded. They go burn a fellow soldier a house. When they work for the devil. Not be only La Republic, when they work for the devil. And I call on all una for the TTOF, una abandon commando. Una abandon that clique of Samuel Komesako and Chris Anu. These are infiltrators. These are people who are not working for Ambazonians. They are working for their self-benefit. These are church rats. People who could not even afford a meal for themselves. Lazy people. Chris Anu na Isa Chiruma introduce it for Ambazonia. We don't fall for this their trash long enough. We need to abandon these people and focus for fight for our liberation. Now the way they can use them for cash Seseko, full Seseko go put about prison. Now the poisonous ideology of a government. I will release the audios them. I hear some of the people they don't make a propaganda audio. They talk say ADF will work find General Diamond for kill him, the Sokadev general. Yes, at one point we will the worker find it because he will the target our forces them. But we will always put Ambazonia first, even in the middle of that conflict. That way La Republic can attack them with Ayeke. We'll send back up for them. And I will release the video, the audio. I'll release them tomorrow. And I request for clearance to release the audio. Maybe when I hear the communication between our forces and the General Diamond, when I go know say actually we are the big brother on the ground. We are the mother force. We accept all forces. We supply weapons for all forces them. Even technology for explosive. Even when we need to take the credit and when they need to give we the credit. We need to mind at all. Because the most important thing that will put our country first. So we get a lot of things them and a lot of updates them for bring them. Make we no feel I don't forget the video concerning the leak footages them for for inside with Chris Anu, where he take money, I will release those one them, and also the proof where Chris Anu be go meet up Ngole with Eko for England. It become true francs. I'll present the evidence then for all that meeting them. Make gonna actually know say these people are working for La Republic. It is not something we are saying out of hatred or out of to score points. We have evidence. We have evidence for that, and their actions is proven every day. And I will release those audios eventually when I go here for myself. But right now we need support for Mavas. Now whether I wake up for 2 o'clock for night for ask una help, we need support for Mavas. We need General Omega needs support. We need to put aside everything for make sure so we arm them to their teeth to be able to defend themselves. We then bring in some other weapons and deliver them for ground zero. The video footage then we will show them later on. Ambazonia they win very badly. We don't win, get big victory them against La Republic. They never be able for take back control of any of the places and hold the control them. Our community school that they go on will remain engaged as well with the international community for make sure say make we get a negotiated settlement. Me La Republic negotiate for come out for our territory. The leader of our liberation, Dr. Chuayaba, is focused. He benchmarked the way they set them for we for the defense. We meet them up, and everybody is working very hard for our liberation. Our ground zero commander, our Supreme General Ifang, we salute you, we thank you for the great job. General Cobra as well for Bamenda Brigade for Mezam, and all our general, the unit, the way they don't come in from, where they integrate them now from Awing and Santa, will be very happy to see how things that they build up. Na Jose na money the shot, and all the forces them waiting they on the line to receive their own equipment. Them we do tell them be patient and to tell Ambazonia meet them we need that help now. Our forces them the operation for this month of December they go to accelerate. We will target Brazaris in particular. I be done send warning for Dreamland. I will do this one next time, but I think maybe I have to do one. Our forces of Bamenda they don't capture this contraband of ban La République du Cameroon Brasseries drinks. This time I tell them they release the motor them, they destroy the Brasseries drinks, they release the motor them. For this December we go be very aggressive. Anybody we go transport Brasseries drinks in a motor, that motor will be destroyed completely. It will be destroyed. Any warehouse where you go house Brasseries motor, it will be destroyed. Any bar where you go carry sell Brasseries drinks, these are illegal drinks, it will be destroyed. So one person that already sent me message for WhatsApp, say you want to donate for Omega, it asks for PayPal. Thank you very much. My brother for Denmark, Alino. Thank you very much, my brother. I don't to see the WhatsApp now, but I want to send the video first for contact Lucas Asso, Mr. Alino. The money will be faster because Mr. Lucas has to be more, he give more time, and it always be he job they allow you for be able to carry those transactions. I'll share one of the video for the Brazaris who don't cash for Bamenda. Just for let una know so our forces they really work hard for implement our policy them. They don't cash 2 trucks for Bamenda. All the money I be don't tell una say any man where you don't bribe, if you don't bribe some soldier them for Bamenda, say they will allow Brazaris, we don't do rotation, we don't do set everything in place. All those things that don't go work. Ma play one of these videos them at least for give una an idea for the things the way our soldier they do them for ground. So this one I contraband.
I see time where they don't start to transport the Brazaris Mimbo. Not for night. If of what?
So now Brazaris they don't begin transport Brazaris now for night. We inside capital city for Bamenda.
Buy Londo gear for we. The city where they carry them for night. Wait. Now all motor na Brazaris. They start by Londo fight again for we. Say they don't settle control. They go for night. They go pass on night. Say I will already pass a sorty una. Nothing is where they go carry them. Wanna look and find. Wanna see them. Now this one. Only Brazaris. Now this one.
So because of lack of time, these brasseries drinks are completely destroyed. We allow the driver and the vehicle to go away. From December, as we start this month for December, any motorway it go carry brasseries, we don't overgate a lot of people that are even complain about, say, I don't come for the, I make now lesson at church things. No, we give time for our people them and we put their livelihood first. We give enough warning for make sure, say, any law way will be implemented for safeguard the general interest, make it take into consideration the amount of publicity, because it not just be enough for we for make rules, they implement them very aggressively without being sensitive with the sensitization, with our own responsibility for do the same, for do and so before we take those harsh actions. So subsequently, vehicles will not be spared. And I talk for Dreamland because I say the highest number of brasseries member for inside Bamenda illegally. All our Republic to Cameroon, the agent and their troops that they can't drink now for Dreamland. Dreamland would like you too much. Would like you too much. Now why did I take this time for even call your name Dreamland? Because Mrs. when I enter Bakwa, now for Dreamland way, I they come for they can relax. The last time I come for they even celebrate, they make me big celebration for day for all those places that were Bamenda. When I know me, I've been a Bamenda boy, I've been a man for we know how to chop life very well for Bamenda. But na country first. It not be acceptable when they don't ban brasseries mimbo. Make you see say that brasseries mimbo. This time, if you say brasseries mimbo, you keep La Republic mid and guard you like security guard for your premises. The boy that will look for other way for make sure say we go be within our code of conduct, because the talks of La Republic, if you go ahead go do something, and at the danger that way they for you Dreamland. Because if you get enemy them, they hear our warning. Your enemy then go do something for try to put up our head. So any action where it will be taken, it will be within our code of conduct. And if you extend even to your property, if you continue to do it, you do. So stop that brasseries. It not be worth it. It not be worth it. Any man where they say brasseries and Bazonia, you directly support La Republic du Cameroon, the economy where they, because we don't trace the profit for brasseries in particular. Say be directly linked with the treason, with the terrorism for La Republic where they push this illegal war for our territory. Now why that way brasseries they be singled out. So if you buy brasseries, no so you arm Mr. Pobia and a click for continue for begin do the mass murder for Amazonia. So ladies and gentlemen, now almost 4 o'clock already for Hong Kong time. So due to time, we will continue tomorrow, and those leak audio them I will try for presenter for una. May God bless una. Make our revolution be short. May our independence be forevermore. I will bring the footages for inside Boya, the one that we are soldier that don't go time for Moyoka. Also, I want to thank Commander Small Pikin, Captain Small Pikin, for the wonderful job they don't do and for go around for meet people them during this day for they don't observe the Independent Day Ghost Town. May gonna keep the good job going. God bless una. Ciao.
DJ Cleve exclusive, sir.
Kigwara korino omba, alotu omba. I see you were jimba, vetata kituboyo omba. Adekomu omba, mo yellow no my eye. Kigwara korino omba, alotu omba. I see you were jimba, vetata kituboyo omba. Adekomu omba, mo yellow no my eye. Kisang mo very we had for me. I love do for a mo. I say mama wama, say mama wam. Jida line emo mama wama. You can say I want to know that worry. I feel them more than we. Mama more than we are. When we are wadumba, a tumba day. When we are wadumba, when we are wadumba, hey. Keep a omba, I love to omba. I see you were jimba, but I take you to boyomba. I de como omba, more yellow no my eye. Keep a record no omba, alotu omba. I see you were jimba, vetata kitu boyomba. Ade komu omba, mo yele uno my eye. One vini ye, when you mo be me ya, yeah. One vini yo, when you mo be me ya, yeah. Nyetata sumo Jim yena one vini baba oma. Nyetata sumo Jim yena one vini yeah. Keep a record no omba, I love to omba. I see you were Jimba, vetata kitu boyomba. Ade komu omba, mo yellow no my eye. Keep a record no omba, I love to omba. I see you were Jimba, vetata kitu boyomba. Ade komu omba, mo yellow no my eye. Omba konimo,
Chia yele,
Jimani,
che quan che cerchi là.
Vesa la janga, Chebe. Ah, very well. Oh, tata kong
Dumriye won mo apom yiri wo.
Agola dumriye wona.
Taron mo apom yiri wo.
Agola dumri tarona.
Dumriye won mo apom yiri wo.
Agola dumriye wona.
Taron mo apom yiri wo.
Kigwa rekori no omba, I love to omba. I see you were jimba, vetata kitu boyomba. Ade komu omba, mo yele uno my eye.
Good afternoon, fellow Ambazonians. Today, na number 29 day for Sunday, 2020 for November. My name na Capo Daniel, Sense Pass King. Today, I go to Teguna for this special podcast for the great city of Gozang. Gozang na one of the district them way dey for inside the great state of Momo. Gozang get the biggest market, food market for inside the entire territory of Ambazonia. Gozang it can be the center of a lot of amber to amber conflict. We don't pain our heart so much like a people. The amber to amber conflict for inside Gozang, inside Batibo, it can be between two forces, the Ambazonia Defense Forces, when a national forces, that means say forces will operate out of that area and inside that area, it project itself across our national territory. With the local force, will be primarily based inside Batibo. This force will be led by Commando, where the name for the force na TTA. So this TTA, if I feel refresh on our brain, now the same group where they began capture General Efang, that way EBC being a second in command of the Ambazonia Defense Forces. At that time, na Nambere, where today it work now with La Republic, it be capture General Efang.
Na Bumila Edzie flag.
Now the voice that for Nambere, that way be there with the TTA, where they be capture General Efang. During that capture, some people for diaspora, they be full Nambere and the TTA. Say General Efang, he be the camp for they never come attack them. Now this one be push them, they be go catch General Efang, big number.
I be very aware from our brothers. So if you want all we go keep the same thing. Now, Edzie they have flagged this.
If you hear very clearly, Nambere they talk for them say, I know say una be our brothers. And later on, Nambere be talk for them. Some talk way during the time where this case be go on, will be that engage for try for beggy, Say me they not deceiving me key brothers them.
In the behalf of them, because they are staying here, not like I'm gonna good fighters them, and I use the rest surrender their life to this struggle. I believe so. They are in the point of making peace.
Yes, now good fighters them as Nambere be talk and will be in the point for make peace, because we be done convince Nambere for know the truth, say we will not be there for them for attack them, and eventually he will decide for left them, stating say he no go ever kill an Ambazonian fighter.
One, the man kill me soldier, and they told me soldier block.
Nambere be talk say he no go kill soldier, and I be convinced at that moment he release the ADF fighter them. He be tell me say the same people them way they be tell them say me then kill this soldier them. He no fit stay again for ground zero, because that same people that go use other people for killing. Now Nambere last word that. And since he be go for ground one, I be done talk for Ambazonia, they say Nambere no go ever come back. That one will be based on which way we talk how we resolve this problem with the ADF at this particular point. Make I leave that particular site. I go interview one of the forces them where them be with the TTA, when I be one of the force where to them work with the ADF, because these boys and they so they work between camps. Now brothers them, as a matter of fact, all them for the majority, all them na Mogamo picking them all. So I go interview one of these boys, they make it give una a window of what did already happen, because all this issue not only about money. This issue now about collecting tax. As we done talk time way some people they be create for themselves a government, call themselves a government. They be start institute a tax system, me specific general the way they pay allegiance for them, me them begin collect tax. We be done one, say that one it could destroy this struggle, it could bring about fighting and posturing and a lot of things. Now they had that for this problem. So I go leave this soldier making narrate and I go the help for narrate, because General Ivor will be the talk during that time. You know, they for talk for yourself. Since I be the talk for you at that moment, I go use the information will be done give me and the interviewing for Commander Bird and many of those other soldiers them for begin accompany this soldier as he could narrate for una Ambazonian people them. Wait to be happen for the first time where they be key people for inside Gozang till now. Make una listen for the soldier. This soldier, as I talk na member for the TTA, na commando is soldier, I carry out this interview following the second death incident we happened for inside Gozang Market Day recently, and he too express itself in that light when I go here.
It pass oh my, I don't know, na Gozang this the second time. That other first incident maybe take place. So me and we did it. So I doubt why all the kind of things will happen, especially now when a critical time. So I just pray I even I recover my health, I even go back, because I believe say Mrs. I will get a very big role I will play in terms of when they bring out some points. So we always try to talk about. I don't know why all this kind of thing they happen.
Now a very critical time, because now time for election the way this thing that happen, as we be done leak out audio when Bandam be pay some of this TTA soldier them. There is another audio of some of their commander that they talk about 6 million where they be collect them for facilitate the same. But in any case, make una hear from the horses their own mouth how he could narrate which will happen for the first Gozang incident where soldier they be die. Make una hear. For the first time where they be key those picking the for Gozang, this soldier he be there for day on the spot.
Yes, the first incident where it happened for Gozang, I did know where they be key Erim, Wakamo, all the other ones. I did it, so I just got to save my life. That other ones, so I tell you now. So when I look like now, while I pass through this health problem, so
I asked the soldier he experienced with the ADF, and if he been a member for ADF, been a soldier where he be done work for all side. Me gonna hear.
So I don't work like Alabokam, but they call and say na ADF. I don't work under Alabokam. I don't work under Ngwarikan for antenna site. I don't work again for under this one for Chomba. Yes.
If una notice the soldier no fit call ADF. If they talk now, they call them say ADF. But in any case, na say the mindset it and dey for those soldier them. I want ask you believe say ADF that they work na for la Republic? How you use this be done work with them?
So I don't work with them, and I never see anything where if you like if it talks about work with the Republic, because then as I be with them, we do na the right thing, we do na the reading way we do and two where we don't know. So I don't know why they take all this thing. For me, any place where I go or any area where we don't pay visit, I never see any reason where some person will can't stand talk say that one they do so. I be talk one thing I say na misunderstanding the key most of these things. Now it bring most of this problem. When suppose you don't do something, or maybe now some people or for inside some village, you vex them. Instead for come like interview them, for ask them, for find out whether now where to be the problem, they just go directly into an attack or that kind of thing. And you want to see now some they lost their life. Because if you look at that time, I bet where I will be saying guys that they come 7, where they serious fight, it is okay, but you can't hold them. So now just some of this kind of thing. If some problem the day or something, they need push it off for them. They talk, leave anger away.
So the problem now say they need to resolve issue them. They need to shut down for down the talk 'em. So I asked the soldier, now would then really be responsible for this boy their mindset will be so out of touch with reality with all the lies?
Yes. Then one thing, the most greatest thing we didn't say. You see, these leaders, these activists, most of these activists are for diaspora. Now them they cause confusion for ground. And it's simple to that entire. So, for example, we get different activities the way them sponsor different groups. In I feel talk say personally, some they give their personal support or me for example, if I be like or I be do other things, me I will don't get my own group because
I go to cut some of the sensitive information the way it came, but basically wait till they talk now say some activists and the way they send personal money for this soldier them. Now they manipulate them for give them this misinformation about other groups. He even go ahead for name some of those people. We for the sake of saying we wanna focus on the content, I will keep that one aside because our people they need ever miss opportunity for jump on personalities rather than the content. I be ask the soldier, make he give me some example. He talk an example way because of a simple land problem. An activist for their diaspora send them and retaliate by killing somebody. We turn out that person be being a complete innocent person.
okay, like I will give you like an example for the one where I be witness where some boy be should on get so that boy be being a builder and the boy too your brother he been a fighter too we then under another group that group for bombing you know say bombing no be this thing so that boy if you should say if you take contract with a man now.
In any case, make a note of a digress. Make we continue on topic. Make we focus on Gozang, the first incident we see the die body for boy them. We will never ever forget that image. Now really wait to be happen. According to the boy, when I go here, how he go talk him. There was a problem with commando. If he set up a tax system for begin collect money, he no even inform the soldier the way they will go for ground. But if he get one man among them, we be an agent, we be the person for set up the whole thing, make it play down. When I will hear the story about the lead una so that we gonna understand the narrative as I could cut most of those information them because of time constraint. When I hear.
Okay, concerning the issue where you asked me concerning Guzan, You know what? It really like make our man or big man commando. If we don't go for Guzang, so we should say all taxes, all the market taxes where they pay. Now yina we already go set a how they give us a pay and that money to go pay. Ivo, yeah, the issue. Should say whether I be try to talk with commando ignore it. Yes, as commando ignore it. He send guy and I become we at the present fee commando nobody will come out, go for day and market day. So nobody really like no the G way they we go now and the M say we go guide the market, nobody know say a certain attack become. So that's why we take a happen. No matter whether they talk now 70. Yes, looking at truly think to say 88, no, I don't know. They want that one, they talk so now talk because I don't go plenty AGF group, I don't know.
So basically, at that time, all the forces they be work like one, they be communicate. That way they be then give instruction for commando for start collect money for trader then for Gozang market. They be start saying they are picking them. They won't be been at the second day for market. The first market day I give on the story because General Ivo no day for talk his own side. The first market day they be start this system. They be send the boy them. For the boy them, they no be even tell them say they can't collect the money. They be consider they can't protect the market. The people collect money for the first time. The population for they call General Ivo they start complain. He talk for commando for try to resolve the issue. He be tell you say if they continue for start collect tax at this stage of our revolution, the whole that area go collapse because those trader them they go start becoming partner with La Republique du Cameroon and it will become a security threat for all man. Now the thing that way be happen before the second time. This one at the second time when they come for the market, the next market day where this incident happen where some soldier then die in a crossfire. Make una hear.
Way there say since from that time the main thing. So now you know people they get their own kind of way they take a reason. The Roger take a say this so AGF na a very bad group. Any man the whole life of mine that kind of way. So even as other group now on as other people go do something they just call na AGF. Maybe so. I never keep on so I never take on so I don't know. I don't know how they talk. So they just believe say anything na AGF. Now they believe that they for put them and I don't know how they will move. I don't know how they will move this very belief or how they feel really like move on for people that might me never they think say anything will go on an AGF will go. Because now you want to anything kidnapping for some place they call an AGF. Yes for the ground. But more really like move on for the mind of the people and even this what I say no matter if that person talk, they more better forget.
So one of the big problem where they face them now because of propaganda and fake news, where some activists they don't specialize for brainwash our boy on the ground, say ADF do work for La Republique for spew all type of unfounded accusation and lies, manufacture stories about the ADF where be tarnish their reputation for this push for this part where they be meet up their brother them they see na only person for kill them. So I go ask the soldier again. Now wait to be happen for that day we when we go that incident be happen for inside Gozang. Now which instruction when a general begin for una and now wait till it be happen for day. Make una hear.
Yes, we be like known as say would go now for go guide the market, for go secure the market. Because we been a Gozang market day and you know Gozang market is a very big market. So we're gonna go secure the market. We not be no say something day for back. We say we be surprised how the dancer talks to say this way we can set maybe.
Good afternoon, fellow Ambazonians. Today na number 29 day for Sunday 2020 for November. My name na Capo Daniel, Sense Pass King. Today I go to take una for this special podcast for the great city of Gozang. Gozang na one of the district them way dey for inside the great state of Momo. Gozang get the biggest market, food market for inside the entire territory of Ambazonia. Gozang it can be the center of a lot of amber to amber conflict. We don't pain our heart so much like a people. The amber to amber conflict for inside Gozang, inside Batibo, it can be between two forces, the Ambazonia Defense Forces, when a national forces, that means say forces will operate out of that area, and inside that area, it project itself across our national territory, with the local force will be primarily based inside Batibo. This force will be led by commando, where the name for the force na TTA. So this TTA, if I feel refresh on our brain, now the same group where they began capture General Efang. That way EBC being a second in command of the Ambazonia Defense Forces. At that time, na Nambere, where today it work now with La Republic, it be capture General Efang.
Now bring that ADF flag.
Now the voice that for Nambere, that way be there with the TTA, where they be capture General Efang. During that capture, some people for diaspora, they be full Nambere and the TTA. Say General Efang, he be the come for them, for come attack them. Now this one be push them, they be go catch General Efang, big number.
I'll be very aware from our brother. So if you want all we go keep the same thing. Now, ADF they have flagged this.
If you hear very clearly, Nambere they talk for them say, I know say una be our brothers. And later on, Nambere be talk for them. Some talk way during the time where this case be go on, will be that engagey for try for beggy. Say me they not deceive me key brothers them.
In the behalf of them. Because they are staying here, not like I'm gonna good fighters them. And I use the rest surrender their life for this struggle. I believe so they're now in the point of making peace.
Yes, now good fighters them as Nambere be talk and will be in the point for make peace. Because we be done convince Nambere for know the truth, say we will not be there for them for attack them, and eventually he will decide for left them, stating say he no go ever kill an Ambazonian fighter.
One. The man kill me soldier, and they told me soldier is blood.
Nambere be talk say no go kill soldier, and I be convinced at that moment he release the ADF fighter them. He be tell me say the same people them way they be tell them say me then kill this soldier them. He no fit stay again for ground zero because that same people that go use other people for killing. Now Nambere last word that. And since he be go for ground one, I be done talk for Ambazonia, they say Nambere no go ever come back. That one will be based on which way we talk how we resolve this problem with the ADF at this particular point. Make I leave that particular site. I go interview one of the forces them with them be with the TTA. When I be one of the force where to don't work with the ADF because these boys and they so they work between camps. Now brothers them, as a matter of fact, all them for the majority, all them na Mogamo picking them all. So I go interview one of these boys, they make it give una a window of what did already happen. Because all this issue not only about money, this issue now about collecting tax. As we be done talk time way some people they be created for themselves a government, call themselves a government. They be start institute a tax system, me specific general the way they pay allegiance for them, me them begin collect tax. Will be done one, say that one it could destroy this struggle, it could bring about fighting and posturing and a lot of things. Now they had that for this problem. So I go leave this soldier making narrate them and I go the help for narrate because General Ivor will be the talk during that time. You know they for talk for yourself. Since I be the talk for you at that moment, I go use the information we be done give me and the interviewing for Commander Bird and many of those other soldiers them for begin accompany this soldier as he could narrate for una Ambazonian people them. Wait to be happen for the first time where they be key people for inside Gozang till now. Make una listen for the soldier. This soldier, as I talk na member for the TTA, na commando is soldier, I carry out this interview following the second death incident we happened for Insa Gozang Market Day recently, and he too express itself in that light when I go here.
It pass, oh my, I don't know, na Gozang this the second time. The other first incident where we take place, where me and we did it, so I doubt why all the kind of things will happen, and especially now when a critical time. So I just pray, I even I recover my health, I even go back because I believe say, Mrs. I will get a very big role I will play in terms of when they bring out some points, so we always try to talk about. I don't know why all this kind of thing they happen.
Now a very critical time because now time for election the way this thing that happen, as we be done leak out audio when Bandam be pay some of these TTA soldier them. There is another audio of some of their commander that they talk about 6 million where they be collect them for facilitate the same. But in any case, make una hear from the horses their own mouth how he could narrate which will happen for the first Gozang incident where soldier they be die. Make una hear. For the first time where they be key those picking the for Gozang, this soldier he be there for day on the spot.
Yes, the first incident where it happened for Gozang, I didn't know where they be key Erim, Wakamo, all the other ones. I did it, so I just got saved my life. That other ones, so I tell you now. So when I look like now, while I pass through this health problem, so
I asked the soldier he experienced with the ADF and if he been a member for ADF, been a soldier where he be done work for all side. Make una hear.
So I don't work like Alabokam, but they call and say na ADF. I don't work under Alabokam. I don't work under Ngwarikan for antenna site. I don't work again for under this one for Chomba. Yes.
If una notice the soldier no fit call ADF, if they talk now they call them say ADF. But in any case, na say the mindset it done there for those soldier them. I want to ask you believe say ADF that they work na for La Republic? How you use this be done work with them?
So I don't work with them and I never see anything where if you talk say they work with La Republic because then as I be with them we do na the right thing. We do na the reading way we do and so where we don't know. So I don't know why they take all this thing. For me, any place where I go or any area where we don't pay visit, I never see any reason where some person will can't stand talk say that one they do so. I be talk one thing I say na misunderstanding the key most of these things na here they bring most of this problem. When suppose you don't do something or maybe now some people or for inside some village and beg them instead for come interview them for ask them for find out whether now where to be the problem, they just go directly into an attack or that kind of thing and you want to see now some they lost their life because if you look at that time at Bedouin where I will be saying guys that they become 7 where be they serious fight it is okay or you can't hold them. So not just some of this kind of thing. If some problem they or some sometimes they need to push it off down. They talk, they leave anger away.
So the problem now say they need to resolve issue them. They need to shut down for down the talk 'em. So I asked the soldier, now would they really be responsible for this boy their mindset will be so out of touch with reality with all the lies?
Yes. Then one thing, the most greatest thing we didn't say. You see, these leaders, these activists, most of these activists are for diaspora. Now, them they cause confusion for ground. And it's simple to that. So, for example, we get different activities the way they sponsor different groups. In I talk say personally, some they give their personal support or me, for example, if I be like or I do our things, me I don't get my own group because
I go to cut some of the sensitive information the way it came, but basically wait till it talk na say some activists and the way they send personal money for this soldier them. Now they manipulate them for give them this misinformation about other groups. He even go ahead for name some of those people. We for the sake of saying we wanna focus on the content, I will keep that one aside because our people they need ever miss opportunity for jump on personalities rather than the content. I asked the soldier, make he give me some example. He talk an example way because of a simple land problem. An activist for their diaspora send them and retaliate by killing somebody. We turn out that person be being a complete innocent person.
okay, like I will give you like an example for the one where I be witness where some boy be should on get car. So that boy being a builder and the boy too, your brother, he been a fighter too. We then under another group, that group for bombing. You know, say bombing, you know, be this thing. So that boy, if you should say, if take contract for some man now.
In any case, make a note of a digress. Make we continue on topic. Make we focus on Gozang, the first incident we see the die body for boy them. We will never ever forget that image. Now really wait to be happen. According to the boy, when I go here, how he could talk him. There was a problem with commando. If he set up a tax system for making collect money, he no even inform the soldier the way they will go for ground. But if he get one man among them, we be an agent, we be the person for set up the whole thing, make it play down. When I will hear the story about the lead una, so that I'm gonna understand the narrative as I could cut most of those information them because of time constraint. When I hear.
Okay, concerning the issue where you asked me concerning Guzan, you know, what's really like make a man or a big man commando. If you don't go for Guzan, so you should say all taxes, all what the market taxes where they pay. Now you know, you already go set a how they give us pay and that money to go pay. As I go, yeah, the issue. Should say whether I be try to talk with commando ignore it. Yes, as commando ignore it. He send guy and I become we at the present fee commando nobody will come out, go for day and market day. So nobody really like no the G way they we go now and the M say we go guide in the market, nobody know say a certain attack become. So that's why we take a happen. No matter whether they talk now 70. Yes, talking not truly take to say AGF, no, I don't know. They want that and they talk so now talk because I don't go plenty AGF group, I don't know.
So basically, at that time, all the forces they be work like one, they be communicate. That way they be then give instruction for commando for start collect money for traders and for Gozang market. They be start saying they are picking them. They won't be at the second day for market. The first market day I give on the story because General Ivo no day for talk his own side. The first market day they be start this system. They be send the boy them. For the boy them, they no be even tell them say they can't collect the money. They be consider they can't protect the market. The people collect money for the first time. The population for they call General Ivor, they start complain. He talk for commando for try to resolve the issue. He be tell you say if they continue for start collect tax at this stage of our revolution, the whole that area go collapse because those trader them they go start becoming partner with La Republique du Cameroon and it will become a security threat for all man. Now the thing that now will be happen. Before the second time, this one at the second time when they come for the market, the next market day, where this incident happened, where some soldier then die in a crossfire. Make una hear.
We then say since from that time the main thing. So now people they get their own kind of way they take a reason. The Roger take a say this so ATF na a very bad group. Any man the whole life of mine that kind of way. So even if na so other group now on so other people go do something they just call na ATF. Ah, no be so. No be so. I never keep on so I never take on so I don't know. I don't know how they talk on. So they just believe say anything na ATF. Now they believe that they for put them and I don't know how they will move. I don't know how they will move this very belief or how they feel really like move on for people that might make people never think say anything will go on ATF with them. Because now I want to anything kidnapping for some place they call on ATF. Yes, for the ground. But more really like move on for the mind of the people and even they so that I say no matter even if that person talk, they more better forget.
So one of the big problem where they face them now because of propaganda and fake news, where some activists they don't specialize for brainwash our boy them for ground, say ADF do work for La Republique for spew all type of unfounded accusation and lies, manufacture stories about the ADF where be tarnish their reputation for this push for this part where they be meet up their brother them they see na only person for kill them. So I go ask the soldier again. Now wait to be happen for that day we when I be go that incident be happen for inside Gozang. Now which instruction when a general be given for una and now wait it be happen for day. Make una hear.
Yes, we be like known as say would go now for go guide the market, for go secure the market. Because we been a Gozang market day and Gozang market is a very big market. So we're gonna go secure the market. We not be no say something day for back. We say we be surprised how the dancer talks will say this way we can set maybe they take tax all kind of thing. Then from there now we even what how if you don't make audio it's send them they make other audio send how we be already make before we all some of we now but then no say pass.
So basically the soldier they not be even be aware of the problem. Now, when the ADF then come for it, then shoot gun for up, scatter market, then they call all those soldiers, then they come for it, they start talk. The ADF soldier then they now play the audio we commando be done send them for the market people them for begin collect money for them. Now, they with the soldier their eye then open. As the soldier their eye they realize one of the agent for commando for the is do open fire for the killing ADF soldier them. Now we start the killings them. My player may gonna continue for here.
Other audio send how we be already make before we all some of we now but then no say pass. Sincerely, time we commando be start time we be join commando. We be pay money, we give money where they ask like a feeding fee or some money issue in case even if we should over there with the sick. We be there for commando barrack in numbers. Beginning. Yes. So and we no be no say na the mission that way they go for the no say na with the MC with one go guide or for secure the market for that day on a market day.
They go home market, for go secure market, they no say they will use them. Now for collect money, they will intimidate the trader them for the why the commander agent it work from shop to shop to collect money. Now the issue that way be there for the gonna continue for year.
And we talk like say that one will be like the second market day for go for day for go for day for go secure because I don't really like know how to talk it's a good market day but which why they try to explain and I say commando we don't know we never get idea what how if we do pass for go make this arrangement for the way they give for the pay that money like this thing when people ticket all the ticket they make on a which way one sell other kind of thing it be already been so but not at the end where all this information we will dedicate all this information where that thing that happen now before they start bring allegation they talk say how he do pass then before now then you will make with an exchange so we so then be shocked we never know what if we talk but since then we'll never like we take and no say no mistake and make things happen but yeah. I don't know.
So now wait till that way they happen, maybe we'll continue for here. I want to inform you and say the thing they happen for all across Ambazonia, not be only for inside Mogamo. So one in the way these so-called county by county forces them, the so-called restoration forces them, they don't make arrangement for begin collect money for some particular road junction them, they set up road block them. So one in the way they don't even arrange, even like the public, they allow them meet and begin collect money for those places them. The one in the way they collect money for the CPDM senators and mayor them, for give them, guarantee them access and protection when they visit back home. All this so-called government issue, it then create a lot of this type of problem they would face them for the ground, and they see other forces the way they want come inside like a problem, because it go raise the question if they get legitimacy for the control for the collect that money. Nevertheless, we already see the consequences them for the issue them way it then generate according to this so-called LGA and all this their system the way they then set them up. Maybe we'll continue for listen for the horse.
Okay, the finance will be happen as a as we offer go that first week. I will now be send some message for commando the access it, but how you go do pass can't stand make that kind of arrangement where at least them day now all them day for that very area, but he can do that kind of thing now, but back you one how should commando not be ignore ye, then she send the Caribbean of day in some in our nonsense we will know it won't be the second week now go away. It can happen. So you should say they become they be just come with anger or that kind of thing. Yeah, as they come to they carry talk from the allegations as we stand for all the corners of the market. They carry talk say more drop. Yes, I carry to say more drop weapons. The first guy every day as they shoot a drop weapon. The guy the one guy be the way it will walk like a baba for that place as they talk. If you get that rush, so now they start exchange bullet. Now for the now they be succeed. He be that man will walk like we walk for the shrine for commando will be the first person will be key. Yes. The first person they be key. Then the other one they be open fire. Yes, they finish them, they kill. And then four they kill. So now only we two succeed because we never shoot, maybe do nothing.
So wait till we happen. Wait talk say that Baba they call na a man I think come on Nigeria. So then kill it first. If they talk na person with them key for their side first. Because now the Baba be open fire first. Then put down 2 ADF soldier them. Then kill all of the other the TTA soldier the way they be open fire. The remaining one the way they no be open fire, they be leave them mid and go. They be talk for them. Wanna continue for here as they will explain that particular thing.
As I tell you how I think the first thing will be ignorant. We not be know to the past. Them now the one they come on how they be send them. They send them on a mission. But before the one we would already did it. So as they be only come carry talks immediately down weapon. The highest thing will be happen as they immediately they reach, they be shoot gun for air. So people they be scatter now. They talk say more later arms. That guy Erim we be work for commando as Baba for shrine. Now it also they before they start open fire. As I would be them. Or now they open fire. The anger now it be rise. So now we control them.
So it be very difficult for you to explain them for admit their problem because we don't talk for all sides. Now wait till that happen. Now the Baba be first open fire and now it two way the ADF first drop it down with all the one way they be open fire as well. So in my question I ask the boy clearly now will be open fire first. I tell you say the information will be get them. Now the Baba be open fire first before then drop them down after they be done. If be open fire after they be done tell them they no say come again for can collect money for trader them. He to confirm the information and even they need one talk directly.
Yes. Now exactly now so it happen. So choose they be even come now so for courage. Maybe not for the for even make an amount so now wait till I be the pass. Someone will ever come. But as that arena, if you open fire, they will then shoot them. So I believe in one thing that it don't cause like.
Just for reiterate again, if you not hear the Erim we talk with the we talk say open fire, remember say na he talk say na the one way he talk say we be the first person we then kill him. So if you open fire first, then the killing will only happen na second. Now for Joe proof physically for his testimony, say na the TTA they be open fire first after they be that explaining for them the reason why we General Ivan no want me people that they continue for collect money for trader them for inside Gozang market.
Then they don't cause all problems, all the high tension for inside Guzan, inside Batibu as a whole. But one thing we are try for ask him to say, it should say, Erim says a birono, birono the GBB. Because he hardly ever before he come out, any mission will ever go, he hardly before he come out, but that why we be come out that day. Yes, not that time. It should say be no.
So the matter na say na few of the commander they didn't know the mafia and they did gather the remaining foot soldiers and they ship them, go put them for the kind of situation where they did. Most often they mask and hide themselves behind propaganda lies. Sometimes like the public they even help them because they see infighting, they come also for provoke people that may they not ever know the truth. But the truth must be spoken.
Okay, you know how we been a market day, Guzang market day. Guzang market, I feel to say get about 6 way in. 6 way in where they come out from different villages. But now 1 way in will be that where you come out, where you come out directly through Bali, so we leave Mount Fair Road, enter Guzang. So I don't explain and say this as they become the rockerish now they run they already know say the market show say they run whether they run leave information or they already get information say no as they the other week they will come the other week as they already reach now they already shoot they run fire for up so now people they now they run all man up.
So I try for pushing me explain exactly step by step which way happen. The ADF fighter they become for day, then disperse all man for market by shooting gun in the air, then call all the TTA soldier they meet and come meet them. For talk me, then lay down their gun, then deny for lay their gun. They carry on with the conversation for proof for them with audios them which way it happen before they cross the shooting between the two groups. It start with TTA firing the first shot.
People they all run, enter market, they will one way they enter the house, they enter local. So now, as a maker now, we do different angle, other different angle them. The guide, as a gun so but they run. How they said try to look around and see they happen. Now they will worry and say no. Now, so on colleague. Now but then now we try to say no. Ask them. All the year I say they tell we, say me they lay down arms. Some more drop our weapons. But now we instead the one that like I feel like we will be ignorant, so we instead the one that say now wait say me they lay down arms. Now for the way that guy everywhere why they ask they say who be them for tell they say me they lay down arms. Now for the now we now immediately start open fire. They open fire for them. A bullet now they felt like pick them. What they do not as waiting. They follow them. They catch ye and so other guy they will call work. They happen, but we will never do nothing. We leave. We never do nothing. No harm, nothing. All it tell we say no. We get lucky because we will obey. If we try to do something, then I will do it for worry.
So the other soldier they no be open fire. They be release them, tell them meet and go them. The ADF they be carry their own soldier they be die for day. They will go bury them as well. And routinely ADF they always visit that particular place for can lay flower for the grave for their soldier the way they be fall in the hands of their own brother in that unfortunate incident. I asked Kisena how many people they be die for both sides.
Yes, now only 2 of them. Now 2 before then for our own. Now 4. Now 4. 2, not just 2. 2 of the other. And that are place them there is still come come there now. Can't plan. They don't plan for that I grave them. They still come there now all the time.
After the ADF be go, the TTA they become for they call people they meet and can't cry for this, so that made them make a commotion and made them make propaganda video them for continue their propaganda war with the hope for generate hatred for the ADF without even trying to resolve the underlying issues.
Yes, now exactly. Now so it can happen there. Yes, then 2. They bring down them 2 now before the other one now. They follow now the whole now. They cut and they move them. Also other guy now wakamo and them 2 they cut and more. Then the other guy they will follow shoot and bullet pick them.
So all those who they be kill them now one day they be open fire. This it be been a very tough time for the ADF to handle this issue because emotion they be high. They be done also plan a prank for Dr. Chuayaba, the leader of the revolution as well for UK. So a lot of things that go on. It will be an unfortunate situation, and when I hear exactly what will happen. So my fellow country people them now the things that will happen for Gozang. The first one where people they will die for day. And bitterness that always still there. The bitterness not be because the boy they hate each other. Now 2 things. One are the propaganda and the fake news where they make them against the ADF. The second one are the economic interests where commando you get them for that market, and the interest we get them for the politician the way they pay me begin to keep them guaranteed their security. Most of the foot soldier them they not even be aware of which way they happen. It be regrettable. Say because of collecting of tax, it don't push people to kill each other. The whole issue now palaver for government, because each time you create a tax, now who go to collect the tax? Now which forces and they for now which one not go to take them? Now still la Republic that I'm begin infiltrate with because of this system. They pay for play indeed. What they call on peace. Dr. General Efang, he done send out a warning against fake news and unsubstantiated accusation levied against any group. If any man you want accuse anybody, make the man hold a proof for your hand. If you don't get any proof or any reason other than just speculation, there is no need. Any man who you want accuse any other person for work with the Republic, me bring a proof. For the one for TTA, we don't hear band them then talk for money where they send them for commando, and for Iringwa, Sakoi mistress, and money where the commander for inside Gozang, it also talk where they receive 6 million last year for making me election, allow some convoy for election, me they come do their visit. We must deny corruption, we must stand for nationalism, and look for better ways for sustain our struggle without compromising the integrity of the liberation movement. God bless you now. Capo Daniel the talk.
So we travel into Black Africa to learn the story of the Nile Valley, a story generally told from Egypt. Today we're going to tell the story from a place that thrived before Egypt, alongside Egypt, and after Egypt.
The lands to the south of Egypt, generally called Nubia, had 5 important golden ages. The first golden age, which was called Tarseti, some people call that, in translation, the land of the bow. This civilization was older than First Dynasty Egypt by about 200 years.
They also domesticated animals here first and before Egypt, so pastoralism was very important. Depending on how far back, if you say 9,000 years ago, then you can say yes, it was probably more developed than Egypt. But starting from the 4th millennium BC, the center really is in Egypt and develops from there.
Sudan was often ahead of Egypt in terms of developing technology because it had perhaps a smaller population. In Egypt, there's not much need for human economy. You don't need to save on human labor because every time the Nile flooded in midsummer, you had a huge reservoir of human labor as long as you were feeding them a living wage.
The ancient Egyptians themselves said that they came from the south of Kemet, ancient Egypt, which is further up, higher up the Nile Valley, closer to the source. And they identified the mountains of the moon, which are in modern-day Uganda, as their place of origin.
Most historians now accept, even the European Eurocentric ones, that it is the movement of the peoples from the south to the north that gave birth to Kemet. However, what they fail to recognize that is not just the movement of these one set of Africans traveling from the south to the north, but also movements of other Africans coming from the west to the east. They met and collected together in what is now Kemet. That's why that civilization was so powerful, because it was a multicultural expression of the African experience. It was several sets of different Africans coming together in one place and creating a civilization.
We travel through Sudan, the largest country in Africa, to learn about a world that was already old before our world had even begun. The ancient land once known as Tarseti, Kerma, and Kush, home to the Nubians. This is a place where early Europeans came to study and learn from Africans, and to study from the oldest people in the world, Africans.
So when you hear recent discussions on who were the black pharaohs, referring in particular to the Nubian pharaohs or the Cushitic pharaohs, those pharaohs they often call black pharaohs in a way to try and distinguish them from the others, but they can't be, because as we said, all the early dynastic and intermediate pharaohs were black.
This is home to the world's oldest recorded religion, a place whose kingship and political system continued to bring harmony and prosperity to its people for over 3,000 years. Today, Sudan is the largest country in Africa, rich in oil and other natural resources, but a country culturally split by the Arab African North and the African South. In recent times, this country has been greatly affected by civil wars and droughts. This is a place where the great Blue and White Nile meet to form the famous River Nile that runs through Egypt. This is an amazing land that predates Egypt, but for many is just another part of our world's hidden history. The question is, what happened? What was this ancient civilization about, and what left it in ruin? Why do we only know the story of the Nile Valley from Egypt? And why do we think that Egypt is somewhere separate from Africa? What do we still have and use today that was connected to this time period? We're going to peel back the pages of time and find out.
I'm standing here on ancient holy ground, in an area that was once part of the Napatan Kingdom.
Today this place is known as Jebel Barku, which is an Arabic term that means holy mountain. It goes by this term because in ancient times, for over 1,000 years, this area was the Kemetic and Kushite religious center of the world. Home to the Nubians, ancient Egyptians, and other traveling Africans.
Jebel Barkal is a very important site both in the history of Kush and in the history of Egypt, or Kemet if you prefer. The mountain had a particular shape, and both the Egyptians and the Kushites regarded this mountain as the Holy Mountain. That's what the Egyptians called it, the Holy Mountain.
So at Jebel Barkal you have this great ritual religious complex which is set up in a monumental form that we see first when the ruler of Kemet conquers it, when Tutmosis III is building his great temple there, and then it continues, and it's in that area that Napata is.
The city of Napata becomes a very important capital during this golden age of Kush. The site has a long history. We can trace it back to the 18th dynasty period of ancient Egypt, where the ancient Egyptians saw it as sacred to their deity Amen.
It's a really remarkable point in the landscape, and again, you have to be in the landscape, or you have to have the photograph of the landscape to understand how different it is and why it attracts attention. And people have different theories about that, but they don't tell us. They just call it the Juwa'ab, and they saw there a certain kind of form of sacredness.
So the influence of the Sudanese Nubians in Egypt is quite clear, but on the other hand, the influence of the Egyptians themselves in traditions, in religion, is still people having different minds of is it originated from there, or is it being acquired or adopted as gods by the Nubians?
So here at Jebel Barkal, in between Upper Kemet and Lower Nubia, we find much shared culture. And there's much debate around whether it started deep in Africa, at the heart of the Nile, and spread upwards, or if it started in the north of Africa, at the bottom of the Nile, and spread down into Africa.
We must have in mind that these political borders were not there.
But the boundaries were constantly shifting in any case, and there'd always been a lot of trade between these two separate states, if you like.
When you talk about Lower and Upper Nubia, you're talking about a span of land where people have got blood relations, and they have got some sort of culturation and acculturation always happening there.
There'd always been a very strong relationship, and to me, the more I look at the cultures from these two separate states, the more similar they actually become. And I think we need to try and move away from some of the images that we see that show Nubia in particular as a very different country. We know for a fact that, as I've said, there was a lot of trade between the two, and that also many of the people would move across the borders effectively over time. So there's always a very strong, close relationship, and at certain times, you know, they were the same thing. They were just one.
It's like the relationship between America and England. England is the mother and father of America. The population of America are predominantly English American. The presidents of America are English American. Even though America is an expression of the European consciousness, the vast majority of people are European, the predominant power is the heritage that England has given it. The Americans acknowledge this. They trace their lineage, if they can, back to England and come back to here. The relationship is a special relationship of power. Though America has power on this earth, England is its mother and father and recognized as such. That is precisely the way that one should look at the relationship between Kemet and Nubia.
The religion of the Kushites is quite interesting. One of the important deities was Amen. Now, Amen is the pronunciation that the Hebrews give it, and some scholars agree to use that pronunciation. Amun is the pronunciation given to it by one of the old European scholars, Plutarch.
In the language of Kemet, the word for hidden is Imen, or Amun is the way that we put it in English. And Amun is the name of a goddess creator who is everywhere and hidden, combined with Ra'a, who's the energy of the sun. That's the metaphor for the creator, so Amun Ra'a. But Amun is the hidden part, very much like the Christian, Jewish, Muslim concept of God as everywhere and invisible.
The sun, the symbol of the creator, was reborn every morning. It reached its highest position in the day at noon, where it was known as Re. Re represented the creator, God, the sustainer of life on high at its highest point. When the sun set in the west, it was known as Amen. Amen is a Kemetic word which means hidden or concealed.
Amen was supposed to be unseen and therefore very all-powerful also, because Amen was responsible for creation. Amen was responsible for everything, knew everything, understood everything, could foretell everything, and so on, the great omnipotent and omnipresent divinity.
At this religious center, one of the main temples that is still here to be seen today was a temple that was dedicated to Amun. The ram was a sign that was always associated to the worship of Amun.
It has been claimed that during the time of these temples, it was the astrological age of the ram, what we know as Aries, and that's why the ram was represented.
They all worshipped God Amun, who was the same god as in Egypt, the state god of the pharaohs, whose main temple was in fact in Napata.
Their deity Amen, they make it quite clear. Amen is a deity coming from Kush. And then during the Kushite Golden Age, they resurrect that same belief system, and then they build monuments sacred to Amen, and then Amen's wife, or Amen's consort, Mut. Mut was the goddess of Amen. What's important here is that same site, the Egyptians had their belief that that's where Amen and Pranut came from. So that becomes a very, very important center.
Within the African systems, be they in Kemet, be they in Nubia, or be they in Kush, the male god has an equal and opposite female god. We see this representation in all African cultural systems that flow.
Every Netcher in Kemet had his female counterpart. So I reference a Sar and a Set. They were Netcher who complemented each other. They were co-equals.
They are usually together in families, producing children. We have a man and a woman and a child produced as the union.
We tend to think of the deities as a family. It's not quite so biological, it's more religious.
In the beginning there was only Noon, the original ocean of chaos that contained the beginning of everything to come. Ra, the sun, was born and appeared to rise from the surface of the water. Ra then gave birth to two children, Shu, the god of air, and Tefnut, the goddess of moisture. Shu and Tefnut then had two more children, Nut, the goddess of sky, and Geb, the god of earth. And so with them the physical universe was created. From the union of Geb and Nut, 4 human children were born, and so the story of civilization began.
The Egyptian creation story, in many respects, represents the development of a civilization and the growing of Egypt, I suppose. And it's coming out of something that's very simple and coming out of nature, and then is being developed by man and being developed also into obviously one of the greatest civilizations that there ever was.
The spiritual world represented the physical world. So as it was in heaven, so as it was on earth. the Africans came together in Kemet to build a heaven on earth.
So what you see is this combination of balance and harmony. The essence of what we find within traditional African society is an understanding of the totality of life that is literally matrilineal and is paired with the masculine energy in order to maintain its force and its operation throughout society. If you suppress the female, you suppress 50% of the power of the creator.
It seems to be really important, and in many respects the sort of male and female seem to represent the two different forces coming together. And I suppose it's a bit like the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt in some respects.
Because they understood that it wasn't just about gender. It was about the understanding of the energy and how it moves, how masculine energy moves and how feminine energy moves, and how to marry the two, which created balance, life.
The idea was to create a land which was like the land that was up in the skies and beneath the earth. And in that sense, they saw that how they were arranged in families was also how the gods must also be arranged in families, and how the spiritual energies of the universe must also be arranged in families because they are arranged in families.
Three of the most important Neteru in Kemet were Asar, Aset, and Heru.
Or to give them the more usual names, Osiris, Isis, and Horus. These three deities originally came from Kush.
These are very, very important triumvirate.
Their stories are as much mythology as they are history.
Now, according to Diodorus Siculus, who was one of the ancient Greek historians, Osiris was originally a community leader of very early Kush. He doesn't call him a king of Kush, but he makes it quite clear he was a leader.
Asar is regarded as the founding father of Kemet. He unified the two lands. He established the first nation-state in the recorded history of humanity. He is said to have introduced writing, the writing which the ancient Kemites referred to as Medu Neter, or the writing of God when it was written, or the words of God when it was spoken. He is also said to have introduced agriculture and theology.
Also decided to take civilization to certain parts of the Nile Valley as well as to other parts of the world.
Asar married a beautiful Nubian woman by the name of Aset, who was his co-regent, not his inferior, his co-regent. And when Asar decided that he was going to travel to other parts of Africa to share his technology with his brothers and sisters on the continent, he left his wife Aset to run their nation.
And he was very successful, very admired, and this provoked the jealousy of his brother, Set.
And Set then plotted to overthrow his brother Asar.
Set, or Sete in ancient Egyptian, murdered his brother, dismembered his body into 14 pieces, and then scattered those 14 pieces throughout Kemet.
When Aset learned of the murder and dismemberment of her husband, she fled for her life, and then she went searching for the missing parts of her husband's body. Aset found 13 of the 14 parts of Asar's body, and as she found each body part, she cleaned it, she anointed it with oils, and she laid all 13 parts out, and she literally remembered her husband, wrapped his entire body in bandages, and created the first mummy in the recorded history of humanity. As Aset was preparing to bury her husband, she grieved because she was about to bury the man that she loved. She grieved because she was still a virgin. They had never consummated their marriage, and thus she would never bear children by the man that she loved. And according to the story written on many papyri in Kemet, carved on several temples in Kemet, the spirit of Asar came and impregnated his virgin wife, Aset. And then 9 months later, the virgin Aset gave birth to their son, Heru.
Now, in the case of Isis, or Set, she is the original Virgin Mother, and she is seen suckling Horus. he is shown as a child suckling his mother, and he's wearing the pharaonic headdress, making it clear that he was born a king.
Haru is the son of Osiris, and he's the embodiment of order. He has to take over the kingship, and he has to do that through a struggle.
So Heru was born, the son of a virgin. He was born with a specific purpose in life. That was to restore his father's kingdom, to do battle with his uncle Set and reclaim his father's throne.
Heru would then take up his father's struggle, in a way, against his uncle Seth.
One of those classic battles, not so much between good and evil, it's more a battle between order and anarchy.
And Heru eventually triumphs over Set.
At that moment, Heru was transformed, miraculously transformed into a falcon. He flew into heaven to meet with his father Asar, told Asar of his victory over Set. His father blessed him, and Heru then returned to Kemet as the legitimate heir to the throne. And when he ascended to the throne, the symbol of the Heru Badet, the winged sun disk, was a symbol that was carved above the entrance of every temple in Kemet to serve as a reminder of Heru fulfilling the reasons for which he was born. And at the moment Heru reclaimed his father's throne and was crowned the king of Kemet, his father Asar was resurrected from the dead and took his place on the throne of judgment.
According to Plutarch, what he says about Osiris is that Osiris was associated with the moon, and the moon has its lunar cycle and then disappears at the end of the lunar month, and then 3 days later is then reborn, and this is then the resurrection of Osiris after being dead for 3 days. So Osiris is then the god of death and resurrection.
And Seth, or Zetesh, is never thrown away. He's an important part of the whole series of gods. He's not the annihilating factor.
Set was not purely evil. Set represented the forces of discordance.
Zetesh still has to be there. If you take him away, you're taking away part of reality. But he shouldn't be king. So that balance between Hor and Zetesh is one where Hor, Heru, is meant to be very much on top and ruling.
And our ancestors were very inclusive. And they knew for certain that, as I said, there was a little bit of good in the worst of us and a little good of bad in the best of us. And they represented that in this way.
So the reigning ruler in Kemet, and this is taken over to an extent in Kush, the reigning king is Horus, because he's managed to take over and rule.
I'm here at Naga, at one of the Kushites' most well-preserved sites here today in Sudan.
Temples were really important, both in Kemet and in Kush.
When you begin to look at the development of temples, the temples that we find in Nubia, the temples that we find in Egypt, the temples were universities.
In many respects, they were kind of mini universities. So you have your Egyptian elite living in the temples. They were developing languages, they were developing mythology, they were developing the religion.
There were places where the so-called priests, who were actually priest scholars, part of a system of learning.
And the fact that the temples not only acted as places of worship, but places of learning also.
One was the house of the book, and the other one was the house of life, Per Ankh, meaning house of the life, house of life.
The education was holistic So you couldn't study maths without studying geography or biology. Everything was interconnected.
These priests that came out of these systems were to be the guardians or the custodians of this cultural practice. They were not theoretical religious people. They were individuals who were both warriors, both scholars, and both priests at the same time.
It might be important to look at the system of education as a system of formal learning and the system of socialization as a way or the way in which one generation was socialized into the fundamental values and rituals and meaning of life of the community and therefore of the society.
The belief was that you weren't born man or born woman, you were born male or born female. And through the process of passage, then you became male or you became female. The passage was intended to be arduous, rigorous.
They would have had to have gone to the temple and gone through certain rites of passage.
The socialization has to do with becoming an adult, with knowing your roles as an adult.
And the training was both physical, both mental, and both spiritual.
And a lot of this came to rest in the temple, where you had schools in the temple.
The temple itself was not to be worshipped. The people themselves understood that they were the most sacred thing, not the temple.
All the professions were premised upon somebody having completed what is called scribal training. To become a scribe was really to achieve the platform from which other careers took off.
What I also find very interesting and very attractive about the Kushite civilization was that, unlike in Egypt, where it was only the educated classes and the priesthood and so on who could read and write, in Kush they achieved a high level of literacy. That meant that humble people could actually read and write and were encouraged to do so.
In actual fact, I don't think there's any modern equivalent to one of these temples. They were both centres of scholarship, but they were also the centres of religion.
So the custodian, the intellectual custodian, was also a spiritual custodian. Was also the warrior custodian. In times of war, it was they that pulled up their cloth and went to war. It was also they that kept the spirit of that nation alive. It was also they who kept the intellect of that nation alive in books and study. So there was no separation. Kemetian philosophy is so monotheistic. All of it was part of the one science, which is life. This science was not separate from religion. So the science and the religion were combined together.
And it's that understanding that everything is interconnected, which is the spirituality.
Everything in the cosmos, in the universe, is related to everything else. We're all interconnected.
There is an understanding that there is one central energy source, but with different aspects. The aspects are represented by how we call in the Western world gods. But there is never a thinking that there isn't one monotheistic central source or power. There is the understanding, whether you're in Kemet, whether you're in Nubia or in Kush or in any of these kingdoms in the Nile Valley or any of the African kingdoms that follow subsequently, that there is one central source or energy from which everything comes from.
Clearly they share the same religious beliefs as with the Egyptians, with some additions, so to speak. Some local gods were worshipped, like god Apedemak, a lion god. And you have to remember that lions were common here up until the early 19th century.
These historical sites found here in Africa
are all that's left of the Nubian and Kushite cultures of people who lived all along the Nile Valley.
These ruins are evidence of some of the world's earliest highly developed civilized cultures. These people had an understanding of astrology, medicine, philosophy. They had mapped out the world. They had circumnavigated and understood the planet that they lived on.
We find that the people of the Nile Valley were responsible for developing the first calendar of 365.25 days.
Now, because of the tropical or semi-tropical condition in the Nile Valley, there were clear nights and people could see the stars and the other heavenly bodies. And it is very clear that humanity began to notice patterns. Think about this. How long would it take, for example, for us to understand the movement of the moon?
The moon travels around the Earth every 27.322 days. Because of this, the ancients based their month around a 30-day cycle.
How long will it take for us to work out that the Earth goes around the sun once in every 365.25 days?
The calendar was utilized as late as 4,230 BCE. Now, in order to come to that definitive understanding of how long it takes the Earth to rotate on its orbit around the sun, you have to be able to make celestial observations for at least 1,000 years to identify the patterns, to then correct the patterns, to come up with the most accurate calendar that has ever been used by human beings.
The ancients of the Nile Valley based their year and months around the natural cycles of the universe. Each of their months was connected to an astrological sign, like our zodiac, and so their yearly calendar became a map of the Earth's human, earthly, and heavenly cycles.
And this is where the sense of time, the whole question of the calendar, the year, different months came out of.
So you had groups of people who had time on their hand to observe their environment and then to produce great works that recorded their observations. So you had astronomers.
In terms of astrology, that was always, again, very important to the ancient Egyptians, and when people were born, they would actually have their charts drawn up.
We see water irrigation, we see aqueducts, we see underground heating, swimming pools, we see heated swimming pools.
We had people who studied rocks and minerals, geology.
These very brightly polished ones, that's again a classic Sudanese. I think that particular colour combination, those happen to be the colours of the modern Egyptian flag, but actually it's a very, to me, very Sudanese combination, that clear white with dark and red. Earlier in the history of Kemet, you get a lot of carnelian, the red stone, coming out of Nubia.
Precision drilling, iron smelting, precision iron smelting.
You had people who studied plant cycles, agriculture.
We see papyrus paper, we see glass making, we see stained glass, we see use of gunpowder, not in weaponry, but in religious services and religious rites.
You had people who studied building, how to build structures, what materials are best used to build structures.
This was a great golden age of pyramids, of temples, of writing, scholarship.
We see elements and a good deal of evidence, perhaps of electricity.
You had artisans who were responsible for creating great works of art, sculptures, paintings.
Gold smelting, silver smelting, the creation of refined industries.
These are classic faience beads. This is the colour that most of the material in this tray should look. Faience is simply desert sand, it's quartz sand, but it's ground down and fused at a fairly high temperature, and you add the colour from adding ingredients, so that amazing blue will come from copper filings that have been added in. So there's a very close link between the artists who are producing all of this material and the metal workers, because they're using the filings from the metal workers' floor. So the underpinning of order in Egyptian religious art and in the language is a pedestal. It's a block that looks a bit like kind of a carpenter's plane, something to make things smooth. And the word in the language of Kemet is ma'at. Ma'a is smooth, and it's trying to make things on a smooth path. That seems to be the metaphor they use. And ma'at almost means what is good.
One of the most significant aspects of spirituality in Kemet had to do with the concept of ma'at. Ma'at represented the ubiquitous powers that flow throughout the universe, that maintain the balance, the harmony, and the order throughout the universe and on planet Earth. Ma'at was represented by a female figure with wings and an ostrich feather. One later came to recognize this figure of a human being with wings as a prototype for angels within Judaism, Christianity, and Islam.
Ma'at was fundamental to the Nile Valley because it was its moral code.
The ancient Kemetians believed, as did the Africans from the south, that when one passed from this existence to another, there was a point of spiritual judging. This spiritual judging was to weigh your heart with a feather. The heart had to measure itself and be balanced against a feather.
And you quite literally get the heart being weighed on scales to see if a person is worthy of going through to the next life.
We can actually still see Nubians wearing the feather of Ma'at, showing their connection to this moral order.
The people and the pharaohs tried to establish and maintain Ma'at. And they didn't have a word for evil, because that's, I think, what people think, good and evil, light and dark, do you know what I mean? But the opposite of Ma'at was Isfet, which was unbalanced.
Ma'at, the feather, would then be weighed against a person's heart. And if your heart is heavy and it tips against the feather, it shows that you have done things to have a heavy heart, meaning you're a guilty person.
The idea of the feather was a representation of the female aspect and also of air, but also of the lightness of being, the idea that your heart was not heavy. We still say it now. My heart is not heavy. My heart was light. I had a light heart, a clean soul.
They declare their innocence by reciting the 42 admonitions of Ma'at, some of which would sound very familiar to Jews and Christians. Those 42 admonitions were, I have not stolen, I have not committed adultery, I have not polluted myself, for I have not polluted the land, I have not spoken ill of my neighbor, I have not spoken ill against God, I have not defrauded offerings. As a person's heart was weighed on the scale of Ma'at, as they recited these 42 declarations, if they were true to these declarations, then their heart would be as light as a feather. This is where the concept comes from. And so it means that they would be pronounced Ma'at Keru, true of voice.
The clean soul was the fundamental aspect. We see it represented in all the Kemetian philosophies, which they had taken from their mother from the south.
So the idea then of Ma'at is she represents keeping the law, keeping truth, keeping justice, keeping righteousness, keeping reciprocity.
And what this basically meant is that we had to say that we didn't do these 42 cardinal sins. And once we lived a life that didn't contribute to those, we lived a good life, a righteous life.
This event was recorded in the Book of Judgment by Jehuti, and then in the next scene of this very important document, of which thousands and thousands were produced, because every person who died wanted to have this document to help them be able to recall these 42 admonitions. One of the very last panels shows Heru, the son of Asar, leading the vindicated soul of this person to his father. And it brings to mind the passage in the Bible, I think it's John. So Heru was the way, Heru was the truth, Heru was the light through which the soul of man was brought before the Lord of judgment and then proceeded to go into heaven or hell to experience the next life.
Ma'at is also called Sit Ra'a, the daughter of Ra'a, the sun god, the creator. And although you find parallels for that in European Christianity, the church is called the daughter of God, so you can see that kind of idea that the great force that protects good is related to the creator.
So Ma'at represented the means by which a person can achieve their highest spiritual level of understanding.
This wasn't about religion, this was a way of life, of being, of relating to each other, because relationships was our highest value, how we related to ourselves. So before you can relate to somebody else, you have to relate to yourself.
It's often used as a kind of unique force that you don't find in any other society in the world. I'm not sure I believe that, because I think every society defines itself by what it thinks is right. So in Kemet, the word of the language of Kemet for what is right is Ma'at.
All of these ideas and concepts can be traced back to the Nile Valley, to Kemet, to Nubia, at least 1,000 years before the advent of Judaism.
Talking about the importance of spirituality and of spirituality itself, not only to Kemet, Kush, and other places in the Nile Valley, but to all African society that remain African, even unto today. And I think it's important for us to understand that to be African is to be a spiritual being, because our ancestors recognized being spiritual as the fundamental of human existence.
From the start, whether we look at the Nile Valley during the Tarseti, Kemetan, or Kushite period, we see a unifying system of understanding that gave the people their moral core. An understanding that may have changed slightly from generation to generation, but a knowledge of a divine force greater than themselves continued to be at the center of their civilization. Debates still rage about the length and continuation of the Nile Valley cultures and how interconnected they were. What we do know is that over time rulership changed between the different black rulers along the banks of the Nile. It appears that Kemet was roughly 3,000 years old before it had any interference from cultures outside of Africa. Asiatic people known as the Hyksos melted into the Northern Nile society at first, and then by chance took full control of Lower Kemet and ruled for roughly 100 years. During this time, Kemet was inflicted with corruption and a depraved form of leadership. There's still debate around whether they were fully kicked out or not. Society in the Lower Nile Valley continued to come under attack from groups outside of Africa.
When the Assyrians took over Kemet, they attempted to separate Egypt or Kemet from Nubia. Now, this was a hard thing to do since both sets of people were entwined. Their families, their culture, their religion was part of the same culture and religion.
In about 1,000 years BC, the Nubians moved in and took full control of Lower Kemet, bringing the whole region under Kushite protection.
When Kemet got into difficulties, it was the Nubians from the south who came from the south to the north to rescue Kemet.
The Kushites, they decided to go into Egypt and to take control of the situation, to sort things out, to restore traditions, to restore religion, to restore law and order, and to basically remind the people in Egypt who they really were.
They were trying to retake Kemet because Kemet was theirs. It was their bloodline. They were not foreign invaders. They were individuals who were part of the original bloodline, attempting to retake the bloodline and the land which was once their own. So that line of 7 or 8 Nubian kings was an attempt to give an African renaissance, to return Kemet back to African hands after the Assyrians were attempting to cut off Kemet from the Sudan or cut off Kemet from Nubia.
During the period of Kushite rule in Egypt, the way they administered that country was quite interesting. What would happen is the male pharaohs would then rule from the city of Napata. Female rulers would then rule from Waset, which is in Egypt.
In Africa, women didn't rule and men didn't rule. Men and women ruled equally. It was a co-rulership with different functions, where the woman was fully vested and the man was fully vested.
And what I find interesting and very attractive about this civilization is the fact that women could actually rule in their own right. So they didn't have to be, rulers because they were waiting for a boy king to grow up, or they weren't ruling behind the scenes while, the guy was the king and he was the official ruler. They actually ruled in and of themselves.
Now, who were these female rulers? Some people say that they were the wives of the Kushite pharaohs. Some people say that they were the sisters of the Kushite pharaohs. Whichever be the case, they formed a parallel dynasty, and that dynasty would be aunt being succeeded by her niece, and that kind of line. Iron, the center of that industry, was of course Meroe.
Meroe is already a city, a royal city, when the capital is further north at Napata.
The royal city of Meroe is very important to our understanding of the achievements of the Kushites because it was actually a planned city. It was planned, it had a water sanctuary, which are known as the baths, it had temples, and it also had spacious homes on the scale of aristocrats.
Today at this ancient site of Meroe, we can see the most amazing arrangement of pyramids. Here, like in other parts of the Nile Valley, it's still debated whether the pyramids were used just for burials or if they were astrological markers and places for holy rituals.
The city of Meroe dates back to about the 10th century BC, although this is controversial. If one looks at some of the older writers writing in the 19th century, they argue that Meroe is so old that it even predates ancient Egypt. But let's get with the conservative dates, 10th century BC. Scholars who have been to Meroe have all pointed out the same thing, the huge amounts of iron slag.
Meroe was a massive industrial center of antiquity and clearly a major center of iron production.
As a production center, it's long before the Industrial Revolution, but in a certain way it's an industrial city.
In fact, the early explorers call it Birmingham of Africa.
Now, why the Birmingham of Africa? Well, Birmingham, back in the day, was the center of England's iron working industry.
As an industrial centre, it was very, very important. The main thing that people think about when they talk about Meroe is iron. There was iron production there. Some people have even said they had steel production.
In this area, it was rich in iron ore, so it allowed Meroe to develop not just as a major political and with Amun Temple religious center, but also as a major industrial center, which perhaps traded with countries elsewhere.
There are reports that the Kingdom of Kush had trade routes going as far as India, and that many Nubians settled there, creating an area called Indus Kush.
That makes you look at how people inside Meroe related to one another and to the outside world in a new way.
Meroe has a whole series of pyramids in a very good state of preservation. There are at least 84 pyramids, and it's quite possible that many more have since been found.
I'm standing here at the pyramid complex of Meroe. Here in Sudan, there are over 200 pyramids that have been found here to date. This is almost twice as many as its neighbor in Egypt. These pyramids were built by the Nubians, and this is just one of the complexes that can be seen here today.
Gold and iron were two most important trading products in Kush. Gold has a long history because the reason why Nubia got the name Nubia in the first place is derived from the ancient Egyptian word nub, which means gold.
And what the ancient Egyptians are saying is that this is the land of gold. This is where we get gold from.
There was a reputation that the Egyptians had that gold was as plentiful as dust. Wasn't true, but this was a reputation that it developed. But where did the Egyptians get their gold from in the first place? They got them from the Kushite gold mines.
They traded with each other.
Herodotus mentions that gold was used to enchain prisoners. Now, he may well be exaggerating, but since there are images of even mundane things like golden tweezers, the fact that gold would then be used to make tweezers, that shows that it's not a far stretch of the imagination for Herodotus to say that gold would then be used to enchain prisoners.
Many of the things that we think of as advanced culture or advanced technology has its root within Kemet.
We know that pottery was first used in Sudan rather than in Egypt.
The Kushites throughout their whole history were always very good at making pottery. They were very artistic, and their pottery is some of the best in the ancient world. That was also manufactured at Meroe.
This is the great glory of Meroe, the pottery. Much of this has been conserved and restored. What's extraordinary is how thin they're able to make this pottery and how they choose every tradition open to them.
What's amazing here is this pottery is over 2,500 years old, and much of it is still usable today.
This is much more an Egyptian form. That's a little baby feeding cup. That's just the mud of the Nile.
Now, the last ruler, Shepenupet II, was on the throne when the Assyrians conquered Egypt. They made their conquest in 663 BC.
When the last of the Nubian kings, Tawentameni, fought his last conflict with Ashurbanipal, who was the Assyrian king in 664 BCE, we see Kemet being split from the African world, or an attempt to split Kemet from the African world. As the subsequent more barbarous invaders took control of Egypt, the kings of Kush were afraid that their central kingdom would be attacked, would be destroyed. So they moved their capital from Napata to Meroe, which is why Meroe grows when Napata declines.
The kings moved their burial ground, their pyramids, to Meroe, and perhaps they moved the capital city even earlier, around 500–600 BC.
So this dividing line that was set up by the Kushite kings was a matter of defense, a matter of safety.
After this, there are no more black rulers of Egypt. The rulers are now Assyrians or Assyrian puppets.
And essentially the northern part of Kemet became part of the culture and history and civilization of Assyria. Assyria became the focal point, the married line, the feminine line, the female line of Kemet was deliberately usurped by the Assyrian kings.
And therefore Shepenupet II was the last independent black ruler of Egypt.
As the Assyrian kings took control of Kemet, then we have a resurgence in consciousness in Nubia. The Kushite people, the Nubian people in the south, resurged because after 664, perhaps by 590 BCE, there were no further attempts by the Nubians, by the Kushites, to retake Kemet. That's why Meroe had a second renaissance. It had a renaissance before, but that's why it had a second renaissance. Because the Kushite kings, the Nubian kings, were no longer trying to take back Kemet. That's why the Meroitic script was resurged.
Now, during the time of Kushite pharaoh Natarsen, the Kushites invent this script, which scholars call Meroitic.
And interestingly, they also borrowed from Egyptians the signs for writing their language.
But let's be quite clear. Egyptian hieroglyphics themselves date back to the Tarseti period, which is the first golden age of Nubia. So if we wanted to trace the origin of Egyptian hieroglyphics, we have to go back to very early Nubia.
Basically, for the longest time in Kushite history that we find evidence of writing, they were using the same hieroglyphs as the Egyptians were using. Both cultures used the same. But later on, when the kingdom became more centered in Meroe, they devised their own script.
But they borrow 23 hieroglyphic signs and a number of other demotic signs to write in their own language, which is the second oldest written language in Africa, Meroitic language.
They actually devised two scripts. One is known as the cursive script, and the other one is known now as the Meroitic hieroglyphs.
The script had 23 letters, of which 19 were consonants and 4 were vowels. There was also a word divider, so scholars know when the words began, when the words ended.
And it's only partly deciphered, so there's lots of mysteries in the work.
And there are 900 books and inscriptions written in this old script.
In terms of understanding the language, it hasn't been translated yet, and so that really hampers our understanding of the culture and the religion, and basically how the people saw themselves and what they'd like to say about themselves. There are a couple of people who are trying to decipher the language, and one of the ways that they wanted to do it was to speak to people who today speak what may have been a related language.
Time is running out because a lot of the languages of Africa are not spoken by more than literally sometimes a dozen people. And as the elders die and people don't capture these languages, we won't have that link. People in the landscape won't know what the sound was.
It appears that the Nubian Kushites created this new language to protect the last of their secrets from the invading foreigners. In doing so, they created a greater divide between them and their lost gem of the Nile Valley, Egypt.
Then Egypt is conquered by the Persians in 525 BC.
The Persian kings, like Cambyses, a ruthless and genocidal ruler who took over Persian rulership and then took over rulership in Kemet. This Cambyses attempted to invade Nubia and failed. His army died in the Nubian desert. That which was left was destroyed by the Nubian bows. If you don't know, then you should know that the Nubians were famous for having the longbow. Even before the 14th century Englishman said he created a longbow, I don't know how he came out with creating the English longbow. The longbow was the famous weapon of choice for the Nubian, the Kushite warriors.
Then it's conquered by the Greeks in 332 BC.
Then, of course, after the Battle of Gargamella, in 323 or 325 BCE, Alexander the Great, a Greek, a Macedonian, defeated Darius III. In defeating Darius III, Alexander the Great then became a pharaoh of Egypt.
He took charge of Egypt, which is what we get the name from the ancient Greeks. That's what they called the country.
So the Egyptian world becomes part then of the Greek world.
And following his death, when his kingdom, which was so big it had to be divided up amongst his generals, a general called Ptolemy took charge of Egypt, and initially as a satrap, as an official who was ruling there, and then later as a king.
The Macedonian rulerships, Ptolemy, etc., he was a Macedonian Greek general, married into the Egyptian bloodline. Married into the female Egyptian bloodline, producing Egyptians who are Greek and Egyptian at the same time and facing towards Greece.
And he founded really the last resident dynasty of pharaohs.
So then Egypt then became even more divorced. And then, of course, there is the classic story. Whether or not there is historical accuracy to it is another matter, although we do have references to it, of Alexander's attempt to invade Nubia and the Candace Amerinus with elephants and warriors preventing him from invading Nubia. We have that recorded under several Greek scholars. The Macedonian rulers of Egypt did not conquer Nubia. Nubia remained essentially intact.
The Greeks had had a lot of contact with Kemet, and they saw Kemet as a place where they would go to learn. So many of the famous Greek philosophers, mathematicians, scientists, playwrights all went to Egypt to actually learn from the Egyptian priests.
The Greek rulership did not affect the religious systems in the same way that Christianity and Islam did.
The Romans started to interfere with Egypt about 100 BC. And that was because this Ptolemaic dynasty, the dynasty Cleopatra was the last ruler of that dynasty, had started to have a lot of dynastic feuds. So brothers and sisters had been sort of arguing and vying for the throne. One person would be exiled, somebody else would take control. And the Romans were starting to become increasingly powerful, and quite often the ruler who'd been exiled would actually run to the Romans and ask them to put them back on the throne.
Then it's conquered by the Romans in 30 BC.
For the Greeks and Romans, the Egyptians were Africans, and when you get depictions of Egyptians, they're always shown people with black skin, afro hair, sort of small noses, broad faces, full mouths. So they actually sort of have a caricature almost of what they see as an Egyptian. And the Greeks often confused Egypt with Ethiopia, so they'll quite often call the Egyptians Ethiopians. So obviously somebody with a dark face. And when they showed Ethiopians, they showed them in exactly the same way that they showed Egyptians as Africans. So there was no question at all that Egypt was an African country. It certainly wasn't seen to be European by either the Greeks or the Romans.
Now, the Romans and the Greeks and the Assyrians and the Persians came to Egypt because Egypt was the breadbasket of the world. The control of Egypt and the granaries of Egypt was fundamental to the control of any civilization that attempted to control the world. Not only that, but Egypt, through its trade relations with the South, had control and access to the minerals of the South: the iron, the copper, the gold, the silver. The Roman system of coinage was based on gold and silver. Therefore, they needed access to the mines of the South. So the control of Egypt was fundamental in getting the trade from the gold and silver from the South to the North. So therefore, the control of Egypt was fundamental. Egypt was the most wealthy nation in the world, and it remained so through Assyrian, Persian, Greek, or Roman rulership. Egypt still was the most wealthy, not just in terms of gold and silver, which was, you know, tenuous in terms of its commodity value, but in terms of grain, wheat. Rome as a civilization, like the Greek civilization, did not produce enough food to sustain itself.
The Romans saw Egypt, and the reason they really wanted Egypt so much was that it was a grain source for their armies.
When Kemet was invaded by the Greeks and the Romans, they effectively ruined the country. They used it not for itself, they used it for their own country. So, for example, when the Romans were ruling in Kemet, they took all the grain from there and sent it to Rome as dole for their people, because the Romans had a dole system where they would give people bread to keep them quiet. That was their dole. And all the grain that made that bread came from Kemet. So basically they ruined the country completely.
But they also traded things like animals, obviously for their gladiatorial fights. A lot of the African animals were shipped over to Rome. Because the Romans saw Egypt as this sort of exotic and interesting, sort of another world almost. It wasn't just another country, it was a completely different world to the one that they were used to.
So when you overexploit a country like that and you take all of its resources and you use it for another country, obviously there's going to be nothing left for that country. And over time, Egypt became poorer and poorer, and I feel that this ultimately led to the final downfall.
So the relationship between Egypt and Rome was fundamental in Roman survival. Not in Egyptian survival, in Roman survival.
I think Egypt was crucial to Rome's development, both from a political point of view, in that it gave it a very important and very wealthy territory, but also because a lot of people in Rome became very interested in Egyptian religion and Egyptian cults. And also, they must have been learning from people in Egypt, as the Greeks had learned from people in Egypt. So I think that Egypt was actually very important for Rome, certainly Rome's early development.
But all of this means, of course, that Egypt is getting more cut off from its neighbour from the south. It sees its relationship as being north. its connections are northward, not southwards. It sees the south as a trade route, a source of supplies and minerals and grain. And we see further connections between the royalty, the royal families, the political people of Egypt, and we see with the south, because the south has cut itself off and it's been cut off.
Now, the conquests of Egypt changed the population. And so Egypt was already moving into an Afro-Asian direction.
The calendar was actually adopted by the Romans. They decided to adopt the Egyptian calendar, so we've actually taken that from obviously the Romans, then spreading throughout Europe. So actually Rome's quite a key and important player in us today, learning about ancient Egypt, because it adopted so many different parts of its knowledge and culture and was very, very keen to promote it.
So as Rome tightens its hold on Egypt, and the failed attempt by Cleopatra and Julius Caesar to produce a line of individuals, that line being destroyed by Octavian or Augustus Caesar.
And at that point, finally, Egypt loses its last resident ruler, Cleopatra.
The line of pharaohs abolished. It's at that point that we have the end of dynastic Egypt under Roman rulership.
And it's after that point, when Rome takes control, that we start to, in many respects, I suppose, see the downfall of Egypt and the demise of Egyptian culture.
Meanwhile, in Kush, the pharaonic culture continues.
One of the great things about the Sudanese Meroitic Kingdom, they're one of these kingdoms that keep the Romans out. It's one of the kingdoms that the Roman Empire tried to conquer and failed to conquer.
I think also the further south that the Romans went, obviously, the further away they're going from the Mediterranean and from Europe, and so arguably the more difficult that would become for them.
I'm standing in the center of the once great city of Miro. Behind me is a temple dedicated to Amun.
Excavations done here in the 90s reveal temples with walls and statues covered with gold leaf, a remnant of Merowe's immense gold trade. At the heart of this ancient city, we find the remains of its spiritual center. Here, Amen was revered in temples of the highest splendor.
When they moved here, they built another temple to this god, the largest, as I said, apart from Napata, in the Sudan, which unfortunately now is in a ruined state, as most of the site is.
The royal city was walled with gates and towers. And one of the old sources makes it clear that the population of Meroe supported at least 200,000 soldiers and 4,000 artisans. And that would give us some kind of indication of what scale of city that we're talking about. Herodotus, the ancient Greek historian, made reference to a violet-scented fountain where people would wash and they would bathe in these aromatic salts. And the Liverpool expedition at the beginning of the 20th century excavated in Meroe and found that Herodotus was probably talking about this bath that shares affinities with the Roman bath. What's interesting about this capital is that only a tiny fraction of it has actually been excavated.
Perhaps I am standing right now on the ruins on the temple, which is still to be discovered.
In truth, at least 90% of it is still to be found.
I hope to do it in the coming years. We did some preliminary sondages, and we found, again, domestic remains, but also a fragment of a temple from maybe 300 BC, so we hope to find it.
So we can only infer from the little bit that we've seen so far, and the little bit that we've seen so far is very, very impressive.
Hidden under the desert surface of this ancient temple are the tile remains of its ancient modern beauty. Much of this area is covered with these types of tiles.
The modern day neglect of these temples is only equaled by the invading nations that came in and replaced religions and took over the land of these areas.
The Nubian and Kushite culture began to slowly decline as the invading nations took control of the surrounding areas. As Rome became Christian, it began to spread its New World religion throughout its empire, taking religious control of the Nile Valley.
For the essential part, Kush remained essentially unchristianized. However, on the eastern side of Sudan, in a place called Axum, they created a Coptic religious system. This Coptic religious system, though essentially African, had a different philosophical base to it than that which had been there present, and a different thinking process to that which had been there present.
The last of the Kushite pyramids is around 300 and something AD. And so it would seem that the last burials of the Kushites coincides with the punishing of the Red and the Black Noba by Emperor Ezana of Aksum.
This Aksumite kingdom was the kingdom that in 320 AD CE was the kingdom that eventually conquered Kush.
The end of Kush brought the end of roughly 5,000 years of royal culture in the Nubian lands of the Nile Valley. So as we look back over this ancient world, we can say that the ancient Africans of the Nile Valley had a civilization that lasted longer than the society we are part of today. At its peak, it had reached a great level of spiritual, social, economic, and structural development. This was a civilization of religion, astrology, medicine, philosophy, architecture, art, engineering, mathematics, and much of what was passed down to us from the Greeks and Romans actually came from the legacy of the Africans of the Nile Valley.
Good evening for all our big brother them and our big sister them. Good evening for all our neighbor them, for all Ambazonian picking them. Una good evening for this number 23 day, when a Monday for the number 23 day for the month of for November. So I want to talk to you. I can salute all una. A fresh day. Today be a ghost town. It be now the day where people they show collective resistance. It be now the day where people they for tell the world and La Republique du Cameroon say they don't decide. Say freedom. Now we Ambazonian people they want them. Today now the day where all our mommy them, our papa them, all our business buy them, sell them, all our business people them, all people that they go work. Now the day where all man they shit on for house for us observe the Independent Day ghost town. So we want to thank all our people them for the big ghost town where they get on today. As they get them every Monday for show that collective resistance, for show saying that the people they don't rise up for actual their independence. So all man una come fine, una come well. The story today, na Monday, so we'll get a lot for talk about. We'll get a lot of big news that they don't come out for America. We'll go start with the news, the good news where they come out for that side for America, where it will be really big good for the Ambazonian people. Then we'll go for La Republique du Cameroon. We show na the kind country where that way Paul Biya don't create them, the legacy where Paul Biya don't live on for that people them. And then we'll go carry una, we go for Kumba. Kumba again, yes, again for K-Town.